'Cause I love you, baby.
Hello, everybody. It is Sunday, May 25th. Music is still, I don't remember it going this long every time. But it is Sunday, May 25th. This is the Sunday show. My name is Promise. This is Matt Dillahunty. And I know it's like kind of cringy to do this. I don't care. It's still so cool to me every time I get to host with Matt because I wouldn't have had the courage to call myself an atheist if it weren't for listening to Matt and him helping spark critical thinking. So to get to be here and work together is one of the coolest parts of my entire life, and I will never take it for granted. And now Matt has a mustache, which to me is extra cool. I didn't know that this was
Technically, I
part
had
of
one
the
before. I just also had a
fundraiser.
beard.
You just also had a beard. Yeah. Now you just only have a mustache. And I didn't know. As soon as we were backstage, I was complimenting it because I didn't know this was part of the fundraiser. I thought you were just like being cool. But here it is. So
no, I'm not cool.
Anyways.
I will say that it would be embarrassing for people. So I was sitting downstairs this morning and was planning out the day. And I'm very fortunate because Arden and I are together, and Arden does all the scheduling and everything else. So I don't have to keep track of anything. I have to remember. It's just like Sunday morning, I get up and I'm sitting down there and she's sitting there and I was like, hey, am I on the early show today? And she's like, yes, with Promise. And I went, woo! And she was like,
yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, and for those of you who don't know, I am in Finland. This is where I live part-time, and it is 10 p.m. here. So, we have a little bit of the time difference happening. You might hear the fire crackling in the background because I'm staying in a very, very, very old cabin with no AC or indoor plumbing and all of that. So if I get up for a second, it's just to throw a log in the fire so that I can stay warm enough to continue talking to theists. Which on that note, we are looking for calls from theists. That is who will be prioritized today. We want to hear what God you believe in, why you believe in this God. If you have evidence, that's the main thing we'd like to hear. Is there any, Matt, what is the perfect beginning to a phone call for you?
Probably, hi, I'd like to demonstrate why I think you guys should believe in a God. Cool. I mean,
love it.
Or anything like that where there's a disagreement. Don't get me wrong. It's nice for people calling, and do the, I love the show and I love this, blah, blah, blah. I get it. Maybe I'm jaded from 20 plus years of doing this, but the pleasantries immediately bore me because I need to get to the meat and potatoes of this thing. And one of the things I've been toying with,
doing the pleasantries, so
yeah. One of the things I've been toying with, maybe we'll even try it next week. We'll see. On the early Sunday show, no atheist callers. Like, I'm toying with the idea of letting the screeners know next Sunday, if an atheist calls in, just tell them thanks, call the Sunday show after dark, call one of the other shows, whatever else. Because then we just get to dealing with theists. It would be fun to do that for a show. Today, though, we're not doing that. We will always prioritize theist callers. We'll be taking them first. If you're an atheist, there's no guarantee that you're going to get on at all, but we do have some space open for it as well.
Yeah. Yep. On that note, are you ready to just get to it and take some calls? We'll just start with.
I did a debate on my own channel yesterday live with Matthew, who's a frequent caller here. And I will be posting that. That'll go. It's on my channel live, but it'll also be going to Patreon, and so will the debate review of it. Other than that,
nice.
I'm ready.
Amazing. Yeah, everybody go check that out. I definitely will. Let's chat with our first theist here. This is Void. I'm not entirely sure what's being asked, but we'll find out. Hey, Void, you are live with Promise and Matt on the Sunday show. Did you want to talk to us about what God you believe in today? Void, you might need to tap your phone.
Twice.
Oh, there we go. That should be better now.
There we go. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for your patience. It's not like we can get to that. That's fine. I think my question specifically is why does my belief feel so other to me versus like a more common belief that I could just like cast away if I find out evidence just contradicts it. And I'm not arguing for any sort of external deity or in sort of that. I'm more on the lines of like I feel divinity, and for that has meaning for me, and it feels powerful and it transforms me. But I'm not going to say that I have any sort of philosophical argument that would demonstrate this God or anything like that. My concern comes from why does it feel so different versus a lot of other beliefs I may hold.
Why does your God belief or your divine belief feel different?
Do you mean different as in like more important or more sacred to you, or?
It's a more sacred thing because like I can like I've toyed with the idea of being an atheist before. I've toyed with the idea of just identify as agnostic because I can't really philosophically get one way or the other personally. But like for whatever reason, I don't think I actually become that. I think that I always have the God belief. It's just that like any knowledge claims on what that God may or may not be becomes just unsubstantiated. So I don't like put anything more than what I could like demonstrate pragmatically on what a God belief can do for an individual. And I'm just wondering why that's such a powerful thing for me, and what at what point does that become antithetical to like to reason, discussion, in any other field? Like I understand it might be completely irrational, and that's I'm not necessarily happy with that, but I can't seem to shake it. It feels like an utter betrayal to turn away from it whenever I do for the moment.
Yeah, I don't think Matt nor I could tell you why something is important to you. That sounds like a personal thing to figure out. However, if I had to guess on my own, just from this very short amount of talking, I would guess that some of this God belief that you hold is carrying a lot of, it's holding a lot of space for the things you don't have answers for. Maybe when it comes to afterlives, maybe when it comes to how you view coincidences, or how you view other things that you don't have answers for, and therefore it might be carrying a lot of it might be holding a lot of what's the word I'm looking for, responsibility in your life for you. And so that's why it feels really important, because there might be other things you would have to reassess or be comfortable with saying I don't know if you were to lose this belief. Does that ring true at all?
I mean, I don't feel like it does for me in particular, because I am someone who's very comfortable with just existence being as existence is. It's like if there's no afterlife or what have you, if there's no like historical backing to any of these religions, that's one thing. For whatever reason, like I'm not trying. I apologize if I made this incredibly egocentric on my part. It seems to be just an idea I've been trying to get my head around when it comes to a lot of religious believers. I interact with myself, not just myself, and I wonder if this is the thing that like drives people to be dishonest in some ways, when we could be just saying we don't know on certain aspects. But what I'm talking about specifically, it feels divine is the best thing I could describe it as, and I don't.
Can you try to define divine? Because yeah, can you try to describe divine for me? Because if not, I feel like you are just saying it feels indescribable, and something being indescribable to me is still not I don't know why that's holding importance. It feels like it's just something still to be discovered, like why this would be. I don't know if you've had a family member that faith was important to them, and so there's something about the idea of belief that subconsciously, there's like, so we could sit here and like hypothesize a million different options, but that's why I'm saying I don't know how Matt or I would be able to help you figure that out. I guess I'm not fully understanding your point. Matt, are you picking up on something that I'm missing?
I don't understand any of this. I've got like 73 questions. I don't understand how someone can have a belief about something when they don't have any way to describe what it is. I have no way to tell why your belief feels other to you, and I don't even know what you mean by other. I have no idea what you mean by divinity or why something feels divine. I have no idea why it feels like an utter betrayal to not believe. It is absurd to me to say I believe something, but I don't know what it is. How could you possibly be convinced that something is true without a description of what it is you're believing?
Hmm. I think it's, if I had to honestly answer this, I think it might be that I have things analogous in my upbringing that have maybe placed an importance on this feeling, whatever it is, something akin to beauty, fear,
So
what have you, an
you're kind
emotion
of
as much
answering
as
a
it
different
is.
question. Floyd, you're kind of answering a different
I'm not
question. You're
authentic.
kind of answering, I want to know what can, as distinctly as possible, tell me what it is that you believe, because belief is the state of being convinced that something is likely true. What is the something that we're talking about?
I believe that there was some sort of object that I hold to be in supreme importance that that this is okay. That feels transcendent, but it also feels important to believe in. It feels important to regard it with some sort of reverence, and then
Then
try
in
to
that case,
whatever that thing is, please it.
I would say you don't have a belief in the thing you're describing. You have a belief in belief. You think there's some value in believing this. Because when I
Yeah.
asked, what is the thing that you believe? Okay, I believe there's some sort of object that I hold to be in supreme importance that feels transcendent, but feels important to believe in. That describes nothing. That is void of anything substantive. I can't even evaluate what that means to determine if it's believable.
That's perfectly fair. And this is probably just some sort of malfunction on my end on adequately describing it, but I think that you're on the right case, whereas it does sound like it is too nebulous to place any hat on.
But it's weird to
I'm
me
sorry if this
you
was a
have
waste of your time.
this kind of ill-defined nebulous thing, and you think it feels different to you. Maybe it feels different because you're not actually, if I say, do you believe this is a 20-sided die? And you say yes. And then I say, okay, what is it you believe? You can say, I believe that is a die that has 20 sides. We've got something substantive to interact with. In this case, you've said that you feel that it's divine, or divinity is the best explanation you can use. I have no idea what that means or why that's the best description you could have. That this belief feels different from others. Maybe it feels different in a way because you fundamentally understand that there isn't a belief there. Instead, there's like a desire for a belief. But when you say it feels like an utter betrayal to not believe, what or who are you betraying by not believing in some sort of object that you think has supreme importance and feels transcendent?
I I guess whatever that abstract object I have in my subconscious or whatever that is, that's what I end up defining as God, that thing, whatever it is. So like, I guess that's what I feel like I'm betraying. And if it's just the idea, if the idea is so powerful to me that it is, that it is somehow detrimental to my mental well-being to turn from it. I just find that strange. But
I
like,
think you should reach out to
once again,
Recovering from Religion and the Secular Therapy Project and maybe do some sort of counseling where you try to get to the source of what it is that you believe. Because not only am I not capable of understanding this, I'm pretty sure that if I typed your X, the X that you say you believe, and posted it, I'm not convinced anybody would know what that meant. Some sort of object, a physical object or not.
it would be indeterminable from me. If
Yeah.
for
How can
for
you
all
call
of for
something?
all
How
I
can you
know,
call something an object and you have no idea if it's an? To me, an object is like a physical thing or whatever the identity is for focus. So, like a unicorn, whether it exists or not, is in the category of objects. Love can be the object of a sentence, but we know that it's an emotion and doesn't exist as an object and doesn't exist in any sense beyond what a mind produces or the mind
Right.
state. So when you say that there's something that feels like supreme importance, and I could be the weird one, I have no fucking clue what it means to say this feels like it's supremely important, because you know what's supremely important to me? My existence and the betterment of life for the people around me. And then it branches out from there to decreasing importance. I don't know why something is more important to you than you and your well-being.
I think I disagree with you on one point. Is that I don't think there's no chance you're the weird one here. I have no illusions that this is something that is absolutely strange to describe, and I'm trying to take internal
Void.
insights and somehow put those into words, and I think that is definitely a failure on the point. But I take your point, because I agree that like whatever this thing, whatever it is, and maybe it is something I have to root out in therapy or what have you. It's when I say an object, it's just this point of focus, but it doesn't take precedence over like how I interact with my society. It just feels like it is the drive for why I want to interact with society, why I want to be better.
Can I ask you, Void, is all of this based on feelings? Because you've said a lot, I feel, or it's a feeling, and there's no like shame on what the answer is, but is most of this just based on feelings?
I think it's a combination of qualia, like you say, like just the experience of whatever this is, if it's an emotion or what have you, and that I expose myself to concepts like to just God in general, and that seems to be a notion that I find powerful. And so I think it's a combination of things, and whether that has any applicability outside of my internal experience, I wouldn't be able to tell you.
No, that makes a lot of sense, because to me that's what it sounds like. It sounds like you have some feelings happening, which we all have, all kinds of things and different things we can or can't explain, and sometimes it's helpful, like Matt suggested, to get somebody to get another source involved to help sort that out. But it sounds like there's some feelings that are being credited to this other thing that you have familiarity with as a subject. And I think that's where the issue might be occurring, because I think that you're attaching these two things that don't have any reason to be attached, as you've shared with us. You don't have a bridge kind of from this feeling to this concept over here. So yeah, I really appreciate your honesty here, and I think to wrap this up, the best thing is to recommend that you reach out to Recovering from Religion or Secular Therapy Project. They're not going to try to tell you what to think or what to believe. They really will just kind of help you untangle whatever you're trying to figure out and help you figure out what the conclusion is for you, or if there is a conclusion here.
Thank you very much for having the call with me. My entire goal of the conversation is just like I I like to put myself out of my echo chamber. I like to engage with people who are going to critically evaluate what I say and maybe put it in such a way that I'll be able to see something I missed. And I'll definitely
Sure.
reach out to these individuals and see if that's useful. And regardless where I fall on the God question or not, thank you for your time. And honestly, I hope you continue to do what you do.
Hey, Void, can I make one last suggestion real quick?
Absolutely.
So people have been telling me to journal my entire life. And I always say, hell no, I have no interest. If I want to write something, I'm going to finish one of the 4 books that I've started that I haven't got around to finishing. But there is one aspect to journaling in small doses that might be helpful. If you sit down one day and say, I'm going to list 10 things that I believe in, 10 things that I believe are true, and they can be a fair coin toss is roughly 50-50. Just list 10 things or whatever it is. And then also list as like number 11, whatever this God-ish thing is, and any other beliefs that you feel nebulous about or you're not quite sure, write that down and just look at the quality of what you write for things that you are convinced are true versus these other things that you say you're convinced are true, but you don't know what they are. I think comparing those might help you categorize the beliefs that you have. Could be wrong. I'm just making this shit up, but I think it's worth a shot.
I appreciate the input, and you know what? That's not a bad idea at all. So I'll give that a shot and see if that gives me any clarity, or at least urges me to define whatever this is more properly.
Cool. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much,
Have a
Void.
great day.
Have a great afternoon. Thanks. You too. Bye-bye. I think that was great advice. That's a really good idea. I forget
We'll
if I'm
see.
supposed to do announcements now or after the next call, but I'm going to go ahead and do them because I'm thinking of it. We do have the After Dark show after this, which is going to be with, if I can see, with Seth Andrews and Austin Archer. And then tomorrow, Skeptalk, Monday the 26th, that's going to be with Eric SS and Erica Gibbon. Then we have Chewed Gum on Tuesday, which is Alyssa and co-host TBD, because unfortunately I have decided not to do the 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. Hosting gig this summer. And then TACIS on Thursday with Ben and Josie. And that's all I got for now, because then we're getting into June already, which is crazy. On that note, are you ready for our next caller? We've got some more theists that have called in.
I'm good to go.
Cool. Let's talk to Lucas. Hey, Lucas, you are live with Promise and Matt. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. Good to talk to you guys. I hope you're good as well.
Yeah, thanks. So, what did you want to talk to us about specifically?
The way I've been an atheist for most of my life. I used to believe when I was until around 15 years old. Then I became an atheist, and I remained an atheist until now, actually, like the beginning of this year. So my stance right now is that I don't believe that anyone can prove God objectively. But I am in a very tough spot to on what if okay, so my question is it reasonable to believe in God with our own experience, for example, not objectively? Let's say that you make a proposition to God, like you ask him to prove himself to you through reasons that or through means that he can prove himself only to you. And then let's say this happens. At what point an individual can reasonably believe in God through anecdote evidence?
If you're asking me personally, I can't think of any anecdotal circumstances that I would consider reasonable from the outside, I can understand because I used to do the same thing, and that's why I used to believe when you're in it, these anecdotes can feel like, the universe, basically. It can feel like that is fact, and that because it happened to you, that must mean that it's true and that you're completely perceiving it accurately and that it's fact. But my perspective would be that that's not a good reason. Matt?
But I'm sure there has to be a line, right? Because let's say that I do believe, like at face value, I share the same view as you. But at some point, let's say that God tells only you, for example, that a lot of events are going to happen, let's say around the world, and then let's say 100 events does happen like that, only to you. You receive this information only to you, and you're seeing confirmation. Like, is there? Do you guys agree or share my opinion that there must be a line where things just become so extraordinarily
No,
unlikely that it becomes reasonable then to start believing in God?
no.
I would
And
start
when you
I would start
started this,
thinking a million other things before that. Sorry, Matt, you continue.
no, it's fine. It's when you started these, you said, if God tells only you, how do you know that God told you anything? If you know that God told you something, then you've already settled the issue and you know that God exists. It's like saying, if Promise gave me 10 predictions that came true, would that prove that Promise existed? The predictions are irrelevant. The fact that Promise gave me those predictions is the confirmation. So you can't begin by saying, if God tells you things, if you're trying to demonstrate that a God exists. What you should be saying is, if I think God has told me things and they come true, would that confirm that I was right, that God told me things? And the answer is absolutely not. The claim that there's a God speaking to you is something that you would need to come up with a way to demonstrate is true. The mere fact that you think you're getting messages and they are coming through consistent doesn't in any way tell you if you're actually getting messages or how or why they're coming true.
Maybe I should just share what actually happened to me. Like I said, I
Okay.
was an atheist, and then yeah. So
Can I, real
what
quick
actually
before
happened?
that,
Sure.
do you feel comfortable telling us which God it is that you currently believe in, or is this just a general God?
It's a general God. It did have the situation I'm about to share did happen in a church, a Christian church, but at this point, at least, I'm not making any connection.
I don't know
Okay,
why that
gotcha. Sorry, go
location would
ahead.
make a difference, but go ahead. So you were an atheist, and what happened?
Yes. Yeah, I'm not, to be completely honest, I'm not even sure where I stand right now, but I'm full of doubts. So, okay, at the big, August of the 2024, I was in a hospital with my uncle, and he was very Christian and everything, and he kept just asking me to go to church and asking me all the time, and I didn't want to go because I didn't see any reason. And after he passed away, as a way to like pay respect for his wishes, I went to church, and I just went normally. That wasn't expecting anything, and I just I don't know. I thought to myself, like, if God exists, like, please demonstrate in some way. I wouldn't even be sure what way could God just prove Himself to the person. But then, and of course, and that's why I say it's an anecdote situation, because I just sit there in the church waiting for the pastor to come in, and then I hear a voice. It, again, I don't know how it sounds, but I hear a very clear voice saying, "I'm gonna speak your name so you know I'm talking to you." And then the pastor goes ahead and says, "Open your books in Lucas 17, 21, 20, 21, I think." And the passage even that's my name. So, and the passage was even related to something that I always question. And after that, in the same week, to be honest, I met, and again, that's something. completely personal, completely personal. So I was in a extremely bad situation. I live here in Brazil, so here with a lot of criminality, a lot of stuff. I got myself in so many troubles with broken relationships, depression. Even I was suicidal for a big amount of time in my life. I was in massive debt and a lot of problems, healthy problems, a lot of stuff. And within that same week, I met a person she's from the United States. That's like some unbelievable, at least from my experience, story to me. So I met this person online. We became really good friends, and this person just helped me out in everything that I was struggling in my life. And but again, that is what happened to me, and I'm not even saying that proves God. But my only question is, let's say that events like this kept happening and all of that stuff. Let's say you ask God for further proof for yourself, and let's say that this God fulfills it. I'm not even pointing out to a specific God or a specific creature. I don't know, but something. Let's say it at what point it is reasonable to assume there's something out there doing something to you specifically, if this happened to you, to a person.
I just have to be totally honest and say everything you told me so far, none of it sounded even remotely. I understand, because when I was a Christian, I defaulted to crediting God as the source for when things like that would happen. But you said that
Hmm.
you were grieving, which, by the way, I'm so sorry for your loss. And when we grieve,
Thank you.
our brains are in all kinds of disarray. So you're grieving, you're in church, you haven't been there in a long time or ever. I can't remember what you said. And then you are asking for something out of this grief. You're looking for something. And that's what us humans do. We look for things. We look for patterns. We look for answers. We look for things. So you're looking for something and you hear a voice in your head. At least this is what your memory tells you. You hear a voice in your head that says, I'm going to say your name. And then a pastor says something about the book of Lucas. Well, that's one of the most popular books of the Bible to preach out of. So already there was a large chance that the pastor was going to say that. And I understand that in that moment, it probably felt like, oh, like this is a thing. But to me, that's still deeply uninteresting as far as reasons to believe that an entire God exists. The other thing with having somebody come into your life to help you, that's amazing. Love that for you. But again, you're going through a rough time, you're looking for something, and then, oh, there's the answer. Because what happens if that friendship blows up and turns into this awful thing in your life? Now, what are you going to say? That was Satan that brought her into your life, So to
Mhm.
me, it's already just very normal, natural human things happening, maybe coincidence at most. And then we're assigning it to, therefore, God, because you're looking for something when you're grieving. And I get that, I understand it. But none of that now. Like, I have coincidences and all kinds of crazy stuff like that happen to me all the time. I have leftover from my superstitious Christian days. I have a favorite number, and guess what? I still see it all the time. I sign my book deal and I look up and there's my favorite number. I go to a hotel, they put me in my favorite number and all that. And I used to say, oh, look, this is because this is what God wants me to do and God is showing me. And now I know I'm looking for my favorite number all the time because it's my favorite number. And that's what our brains do. Anyways, I'm kind of rambling. Matt, do you have a way to actually make sense of what
Well,
I just said?
one of the things is if we're saying, hey, God can give me a sign, that's a very vague claim. And what it does is it sets it up so that you can interpret anything that happens in any way you want and say that, ooh, this could have been the sign that I asked for. So instead of being vague about it, if in fact some God exists and he's genuinely giving you signs, then clearly there's no reason for that God to hide. So start with something very specific and extraordinary and say, okay, God, you've been sending me signs and it's been kind of vague and I want to make sure I'm clear. So make my cell phone levitate off of the table in front of me, hover at eye level, turn it on, start recording, and then in the same voice that I heard the other day when you said you were going to say my name, record a message telling me who you are and what you want. That would be a good start, because these sorts of things have to be answerable by a specific set of circumstances, not subject to interpretation. And if there's a God that wants to communicate with you, it shouldn't feel any need to be vague or coy or set things up so that you can interpret it and maybe get it wrong. If God wants to talk to you, God has an obligation to be clear and not just give you a whiff of a hint that maybe he's there.
I understand that, but let's say that that does happen. So you're saying that
When that
would
happens,
be
call me back.
confirmation. Yeah, no, that's exactly my point. I'm just wondering if at some point, and again, your example is very good. So in your case, it would be something not vague. I see the value on that. I was debating with the initial uh, question of if at any point, and again, it could, the point could be something specific, as you say, but at that point, then you would say it's reasonable to start believing in God.
No,
For that
I would
person,
say
it's not like he's
no.
gonna.
No, that's not what I said. That's not what I'm suggesting. I would say the flaw you're making is by starting with something that can't possibly demonstrate what you're doing. And so once we get to something more specific, that would at least be a good start. But the thing is, let's say that I'm here alone and I say that, and my cell phone levitates up in the air and starts recording and records a voice that says, "Hi, I'm God. Here's what I'd like you to know about me," and then stops the recording. I would have something incredible happen for which I don't have an explanation. And then it becomes, okay, God, since, or whoever you are, if you want me to believe that's you, why aren't you doing this to everyone, for everyone, on the entire planet, so that there is no debate or discussion? Like, Promise and I do this show. It's possible that Promise is an entirely AI generated AV experience that is just being piped at me and at you. But if somebody said, how would you demonstrate that Promise is real? Well, I would do something that the Trump administration is trying to avoid, which is this notion of habeas corpus, produce the corpse, produce the body. I would present in person Promise to the person who was asking, if at all possible. Or find, there's any number of ways to demonstrate. When I was a kid, people would be like, oh, I have a girlfriend. She goes to a different school. You don't know her. And the presumption is you're almost certainly lying. And you're trying to avoid the embarrassment of saying that you don't have a girlfriend. And yet on some occasions, I had friends who did date girls that went to other high schools, and I met them. If God is in a position where he is willing to demonstrate conclusively to any individual that he exists, the next question becomes, why isn't God doing this for everyone? Why are we sitting around? Why would he have to give you special evidence that only applies to you so that you could call in and tell me? Because even if you have a good reason, even if God has completely revealed itself to you in a way where you are absolutely confident that he exists, that revelation is useless to the rest of us. To quote Hume, revelation is necessarily first person, and to everyone else, it's hearsay. And so why is the Damascus Road experience good enough for Saul, but not the rest of us? The rest of us have to go on a story of a hint of a report of a Damascus Road experience, or, hey, I think I'm going to say your name. I'm a little worried when you say you heard a voice, because
Yeah, me too.
hearing voices is a potentially scary thing. It may not be the worst thing ever. But I would definitely seek counseling and therapy first to find out, is there something potentially else wrong here before I put any more stock in hearing voices. But the coincidences that you're stacking up of, hey, I went to a church, the pastor came out and said, open to Luke 17:21 or whatever it was, and That same week, I met a woman, and it changed my life. Um, that's all really cool. I don't understand how any of this is in any way even a speck of a hint of a confirmation that there's a God. And so God is either hiding, in which case he's not going to do the things that let you know he exists, or he's not hiding, in which case he should just tell everybody he exists. This tap dance of, if I close one eye and I tilt my head and I think about it and I look at it, it kind of could maybe look something like or sound something like something I think might be a God. It's almost as vague as Void's notion from the last caller about I feel some sort of object that seems to be in supreme importance. So my big thing, which I mentioned in the debate yesterday, is this. I have no idea what piece of evidence could ever convince me that an all-knowing, all-powerful, morally perfect being exists. I personally think that there are no human beings who are capable of telling the difference between an all-knowing, all-powerful, morally perfect being and something else that is just way more powerful than us, way more knowledgeable than us, and perhaps morally better than us. I don't know how you get to those ideals of perfection. And so Arthur C. Clarke famously said, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, which means everything that you don't know could be magic, could be a god, could be technology that you just don't understand. And I don't have any way to tell the difference, and I don't know that anybody else does either. But if there's a God, that God should easily be able to cut through all the bullshit and say, boom, here's how you tell that I'm God. And that never happens.
That's true, and I agree with your what do you think about an evidence to a all good, all powerful God. I share your view there as well. I'm still a little bit confused to the specific because I'm not here to confirm that I uh, uh, proved God to myself or anything, and it's n- not at all related to an objective proof of God. My question, and I'm not sure because you said if God reveals Himself completely to a person, that still is not sufficient. It's not useful to the rest of humanity, and I agree 100%. But my question is, but for that, let's say just for that person, is it reasonable for that person, let's say that God revealed himself completely to that person in all of the ways that person could imagine to ask for, other than to be something objective? Is would then that the belief of that person, is it reasonable then?
Maybe, but the way I
That
would test that, so like if God revealed himself to me privately and gave me nothing testable, then now we're in a situation where God exists as far as I can tell, and God wants me to know he exists. And God is communicating with me. And so then I have an obligation to figure out, am I merely delusional and inventing this, or is this something else I don't understand, or is there actually good reason to believe in God? So the first question that I should ask God is, why aren't you revealing yourself to everybody else the way you reveal yourself to me? And you cannot accept, I've got my reasons and I'm not going to tell you, because that's the shit your brain would make up. If God's revealing himself to you in such a way that you can know he exists, why isn't this happening for others? And if God can't tell you, then you're probably deceiving yourself. Either way, that God is irrelevant. If I can't tell the difference between a delusion and reality, I don't get to bring him up.
I understand. I understand now. I agree
If
with
you
what you're
find that you
saying.
have good reason to believe in God and God's answering your questions, ask him why he's not revealing himself to me.
Yes, everything in that case would depend on the quality of the answers to those contradictions or
It's a way of
doubts.
removing the subjective. It is one of the core principles of scientific processes that what we need is independent verification. And so instead of saying, hey, God, I'm really struggling here, reveal yourself to me, please. and then looking for the thing. It should be, hey, God, I'm really struggling here right now. Reveal yourself to me and promise and our audience right now. And if he does one and not the other, I would say, now, if he reveals himself to promise and not me, then I can't claim it's my delusion, but it could be promise's delusion.
Mhm.
And
I
Lucas,
understand.
the other thing I would say here is if there's a God and that God wants you to know it exists, then why would it only give you enough that you're calling an atheist call-in show to say kind of like, what do you think about this? Do you think this is good enough for you? You know what I mean? Like, I think if a God was really truly revealing itself to you in a way that it wanted to be known, you wouldn't have questions, you wouldn't have doubts. That God would have revealed itself. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Maybe I could give a little bit more of what's actually like the things I've been thinking, because I don't think I'll have another opportunity like this in my life. So I would. Can I share a little bit of what I'm making of this, my own conclusions?
If you can keep it
If you
really
want
brief
to
and
go
like,
to
Yeah,
another.
keep it pretty brief.
yeah, because we've got
Okay.
a bunch of other theists on hold. But
Yeah,
yeah, make it maybe like make
I respect
some
that.
specific points for us.
Yeah. So the way I think, and to answer some of those questions, and again, that's my conclusion. So I think that God is, again, the word God, it's something like Matt said, it's something more powerful than us. It's not necessarily all powerful, all good, all knowing. That is, I don't believe that. And again, there's not even a way to prove it. So, but I do believe that it's kind of inevitable that a being like this might exist, just because the universe is infinite, and
Why?
even within because even
Oh,
within our, sorry,
sorry. Uh,
yeah,
no,
maybe
I don't see how it's inevitable. Just because Usain Bolt runs faster than me doesn't mean that somebody can run faster than the speed of light. You're basically suggesting that because one thing is faster than another, something can be infinitely fast. And there may be limits to that entirely, not the least of which is what infinity is into quantity. And so, oh, there must always be something more. No, there can actually be limits. There may be a boundary to how much space there is.
I agree with that. That's why I don't believe on all powerful God and all knowing. We run even into logical contradictions. So, but I do believe that if God, I believe at some point in the multiverse or whatever it exists, a being like that uh, already existed. And
Why? You have
for my,
zero justification for this. We don't even know if there is a multiverse. You don't have any way to explore it.
that's true.
All you're doing is sitting around going, if Usain Bolt's faster than Matt, then somebody must at least run at a speed that seems impossible to humans. Well, you might be right, you might not. There's no reason to think you are in
Exactly.
fact right.
Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, but I do think that there is, again, my whole point here is that there's uh, uh, a possibility
No, there's
of being
not.
reasonable to someone to believe like it in from their own
That's
experience,
not
not objective.
necessarily the case. You can't declare something is possible. You have to demonstrate that it's possible. And one of the things you could do is say, God, what should I say to Matt and Promise to convince them? That would be great, because then you could get a message directly from God, bring it to us, and if it convinces us, then God told you the truth, and we would then begin to work on something. But if it doesn't convince us, that means that God didn't tell you the truth. Why doesn't that happen? Why doesn't
Yeah.
God tell
So
you of?
yeah, I do think, and again, that's the conclusions I've been running from my head, given what happened to me. But as a possibility, I'm not even saying I that's what I believe right now. But I do think, for example, because one of the first questions we all make if we start believing in God is, okay, why all this? Why create humans? So there has to be a reason. Let's just assume the possibility that God does exist and He
No,
created humans. So there is a reason that we have to be here to accomplish something, and
no, we don't.
that's something. Yeah, exactly. It's about, I'm speaking
How can you say no?
in
No,
a
stop,
perspective,
stop. You
right?
can't say we have to be here to accomplish something, and then when I say no, we don't, you can't say exactly. I can't disagree with you and then
I
have you say exactly as if I just agreed with you.
Yeah, because I'm not saying that that's a fact that therefore God believes. I'm trying to answer one of the why God doesn't reveal Himself to everyone. I'm trying to answer that
I
with
don't need
this
you to make
conclusion. But
excuses for God. I need you to justify God. I am completely uninterested in you trying to figure out why God isn't revealing himself. Couldn't possibly care less.
did you watch that movie God Ex Machina?
Yeah,
The
but
conclusion here is
but
kind
Lucas,
of close to
Lucas, I'm gonna let
it's
you
kind.
know that since we were already close to the end of the call, so I want to keep things like short points here, and it sounds like you're still kind of back to your original point, which is that you're trying to, or whatever. I don't know if we're calling it a point, but um, where you want to know basically when is it reasonable to start believing in a God. And I think Matt and I have been pretty clear that we don't think these anecdotal things, because basically for us to agree with anything you're saying so far, we would have to concede to so many points that neither of us are willing to concede to already. Even the idea of like, well, if it is possible for there to be a God and there is a God, and then there must be a reason that we're here. I can't even agree with that, because I can't even agree that if a God created things, that there was any kind of purpose in a way that we would understand. So I think we're reaching, unless there's something else Matt wants to ask about, I think we're reaching kind of the end of
No, once you start asking me
That's
if I've
good.
seen a
our call.
movie, we're done.
Yeah, yeah. That's good. I thank both of you for your time.
Yeah, of course. And you can always call back. We take these callers on all of our shows. So
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
thanks, Lucas. Have a great day.
You guys as well. Bye.
You too.
Yeah, the movie thing, especially, I was homeschooled. The likelihood that I've seen a movie that somebody's going to reference, this is already going to not help people, So,
Well,
uh,
I'm a movie and TV fan. I've watched all kinds of stuff. They're pieces of art, and they can exist to potentially teach us something. So it's not like I'm just saying don't ever reference a movie or whatever else. It's just we already addressed everything. And then it's like, but yes, if a God exists, then we must be here for a reason. No. Well, it must be possible that no, you don't get to assert possibility. A God may in fact be impossible. It may be impossible for us to ever know whether a God exists, and it may be impossible for us to know whether or not it's possible for a God to exist. And so this is all desperate flailing around to find some way to make this prospect to keep a light on somewhere in that. Ooh, let me just give me just a little bit. No, I'm not going to keep the door open for Jesus or Muhammad or Yahweh or Allah or Zeus, or list whatever deity or prophet you want as if they are real. Now, I have no problem at all that there might be people who believe this. I have no problem with the notion that, Muhammad isn't God and may have, almost certainly existed or whatever. That's not the point. The point is, if God exists and has a message for us, he can tell me himself, and he can even tell me through you, but not by saying, well, I'm trying to find a really good way to phrase this. Have you seen this movie? Maybe if you started that way, but at the end of a lengthy conversation, it just is an immediate, you're just flailing to find some way to keep this
yeah,
conversation going. And it's not,
yeah.
there's nothing bad.
Which, to his credit, he did say that he was just excited that he was able to have this conversation. So, which I appreciate.
Cool.
But yeah, that's probably the time to call another show for that part. On that note, shall we talk to another theist?
Go for it.
We've got a deist on the line, and I'm very confused based on these notes, something about connecting millennialism, Holy Trinity, and salvation to 2025. So let's find out what this is about. Hey there, Kyle.
Hello.
You are live with Promise and Matt.
Hi, Matt and Promise. It's been about 5 years since my last attempt to communicate, and maybe my communication skills have built since then. So what I'd like to talk about is what you described there, but hopefully this is a refreshing perspective, and I hope to have a constructive conversation instead of diving into a destructive debate. Who knows where it's going to go?
I'm confused already, Kyle, because
Cool.
Yeah.
the concept of the Trinity is nonsense. Millennialism is a specific Christian notion that comes from the book of Revelation, for which there's no reason to believe we have any way of figuring out what about it may or may not be true. So
There's
and I don't even know what
bring it up,
salvation in
and
2025
build off
means.
from each
So
other.
if you can, like, quickly summarize what's the point you're trying to get to, that'd be helpful.
Okay. I bring them up because they're interconnected and the subjects build onto each other. And I think that there is some context to today where if we were to rethink it and not hold on to the past ideologies, we may arrive at a different conclusion. So whatever I say is not representative of the past
Kyle,
or the present. Oh, sorry, what?
let's stop with all the preamble and please just tell me what the point is. I have to understand the point to even begin to assess it, and I don't need preamble or anything.
Right.
Okay,
What
okay.
are you trying to, is there a particular point you're trying to, is this supposed to be evidence for a God? Like, what is this specifically? Why are you wanting us to
So,
see the, you said
as a
interconnectedness
member,
of these things?
as a member of the millennial generation, I take interest in the millennium itself, and I know that there is the real world concept of the millennium being after year 2000, but before year
Kyle.
2000.
Kyle, this should be like a really, like, we should already know the answer
Don't you
by now.
dare
So are you
sigh
calling?
like that. I'm trying to
I'm
get you
just
to
trying
say
to.
things. Stop talking, please. I'm trying to get you to
Okay.
say things in a way where we can begin to understand. But you said, as a member of the millennial generation, the millennial generation is a completely different concept that has zero tie to Christian millennialism. So you are conflating two things that have not one fucking thing to do with each other. I need you to focus and say, here's my point. Are you trying to prove something? Because if you just called in to have a discussion with no point, I'm not interested.
Millennialism before year 2000 used to mean the second coming of Christ. And they debated before year 2000 came around what year it would be. And there's lots of prophecies about years before year 2000 that they thought Christ would come back.
I'm really sorry that we keep interrupting you, but I didn't get my question answered, which is what is the point of everything you're now telling us? Is this evidence for the existence of a God? What is all of this information you're giving us for? Or are you just randomly dumping information on us?
Yeah, I don't need a book report.
I think that there's an evolution of religion and humanity that are interlinked. And so we need to discuss the interconnection to get past the.
No, we don't. You don't need to talk to Kyle.
Okay. So you just.
Yeah, I don't understand the point of this. If it sounds like this is just, like, to me, this is less interesting than you calling about a book that you think this other book connects to about some, like, fiction out there, because you haven't even told us yet what the point of all of this is.
I do believe that there's context to 2025 about how we can mentally evolve and move past religion. And
Okay,
I
I
think we're
don't care,
throwing out the
Kyle,
baby with the
because I
bathwater.
don't care, Kyle, because that's not what evolution is. And like everything about what you
There's mental
say,
evolution,
stop
Matt.
talking
There's
for a
mental
second, Kyle.
evolution and physical
Kyle, stop
evolution.
talking for a second.
Okay, sorry.
Everything about what you say reads as someone who's been sitting around pondering aspects of reality that they don't understand and are trying to come up with a way to make something useful out of it. So, can you cut right to the end? What is it that you are saying is the case or should be the case?
I care more about the real world version of religious concepts. I do not care about the religious concept itself, specifically salvation, which it has two definitions
Kyle,
in the Bible. One we don't care much
Kyle,
about, but two, the real world one is more
Kyle,
important, which is it.
I didn't ask you what you cared about. I asked you
Okay.
what the fucking point was. What is it that you think is true or should be true?
I was talking about salvation and the real world sense of it, but you don't seem the least interested.
Kyle, here, let me try to rephrase it and then we'll move on from the call if we can't answer this. What did you call to convince Matt and I of? In one sentence, please.
That we can mentally evolve past religion by taking religious concepts and making them a physical reality so we don't have the thing to hold above our head to say that it's a promise. It could be a reality, but the religious people are below reason. Atheists are a little bit more within reason.
Fuck that
So I would
bullshit,
hope
Kyle.
that they'd be able
Fuck
to
that
say
bullshit, Kyle. You don't get to come in
Okay.
here and say
This
religious
is a
people are
failed
below
attempt.
reason. Was I below
Yeah.
reason when I was religious, Kyle?
When you
Kyle,
give all
that's a
your
yes or
faith
no fucking question,
explained,
Kyle, that's a yes or
when
no fucking
everything is
question. Was
explained by
shut?
God,
Listen, Kyle.
when
That's a
everything is
yes or no.
explained by
All
God,
right,
then
I'm
yes,
gonna
that's below
fucking
reason.
mute you, and when I unmute you, you're gonna answer yes or no. Was I below reason when I was religious? Yes or no? Any other word, and I'm hanging up.
Yeah.
Cool. Prove it.
If you explain everything by God and not reason,
I
that's
didn't
below
explain
reason.
everything by God. I asked you to prove that I was below reason. If I was below reason, how did I reason my way out of it?
By going above it.
Oh, I'm complete, Kyle. Never mind. Nope.
This is
Kyle,
a failed attempt.
you're going to get to me. I am completely disinterested in your
I know you are.
esoteric, superior, smug, condescending, I found a solution to reality. Go ye therefore unto the world and put it into place and show us you were right, because I don't need to hear another word from you for the rest of my life.
Okay.
I'm
sorry
I have to say,
for
just
having an opinion that you don't like. Like, I don't understand.
Oh, fuck you, Kyle.
Kyle, that's not what happened.
I'm
Kyle,
sorry for
I'm
having
done
an
with the call
opinion
too.
you don't like.
Have a great day.
I'm done with the call.
Good life.
Go fuck yourself. I hate
Very
when
nice.
people do this, that religious people are stupid crap.
Yeah, and all of that to not even be able to be upfront about what the purpose of the call was or what was being said or anything. That's very frustrating to me. The more intelligent people I know are able to answer basic questions up front very easily without like preambles and making it sound like they're saying something else and whatever was happening there.
It's really easy. What's the point you're trying to get to, Kyle? I think I found a way for us to move beyond our current religious thinking. Wow. Congratulations. Well, let me rephrase that. I think there's a way for us to evolve mentally past religion. Okay. Some of us are already mentally past religion in the context that you're talking about it. And the methods that allowed us to find our way out of religion, we're putting into place to do others. So they're to help others do that. So what Kyle's really doing is either calling in to say, hey, you guys are doing it wrong, there's a better way, or to congratulate us on doing it right. I don't need congratulations. And if we're doing it wrong, demonstrate it. But if you can't communicate the basic idea of saying, I think there's a better way to convince people to stop believing in irrational things, then you're not ready to engage in a conversation at this level. But also, this is not, the Sunday show is not a time for, and you're a deist, so you snuck through on a technicality, but for people to call in who want to end irrational thinking and give us their thoughts on how best to do it. Go make your own show. Go get some data. I genuinely do not care and never will about the armchair inferences made by random people in the world about how to do what I've done for 20 years better. If you have data, cool. If you have experience, cool. But if you're just calling in to say, I think I found the solution, great. Write a paper, submit it for review. Don't call this show. This show is for people who are saying, I'm convinced of something that you're not. I'm convinced that there's this fact. I'm convinced that there's a God. I'm convinced that there's a soul. And I think you should be too. And here's how to demonstrate it. No wonder it's been 5 years since we've heard from Kyle. Maybe it'll be another 10.
Now I'm beginning to wonder when he said, this is my first time attempting to communicate in 5 years, if he meant to anyone.
Anybody?
Because that
Could
was,
be.
there was no communication happening for a long time, for such a short phone call.
And the size.
Shall we?
The size, it's like,
I know.
gosh. All right.
Rough.
I'm ready.
Well, now we can talk to a theist and see if they have some evidence for us. Let's talk to Jason. Hey there, Jason. You are on with Promise and Matt.
Hi, how are you?
Exhausted.
Doing well.
But
So
that's my problem, not yours.
Do you want to tell us what God you believe in and why?
I am a Christian.
Cool. How come?
Why? The why would be, well, there's many whys, but I wanted to, just to avoid too much preface, probably hone in on just more secular arguments, time.
Whoa, wait a second. Instead of like honing in on an argument, can you just tell us why you believe?
Yes, well, no, I can't because there's too many whys to that. But we can focus on a few of the main whys that are the most convincing to me.
How about starting with the best one?
Apart from anecdote, it would be time and consciousness.
Wait, those two things are completely different. And
yes,
so let's start with time. Why does time convince you there's a God?
Well, I know I'm quite familiar with you, Matt, and your many discussions on the matter of time.
Sorry, Jason.
But yes.
All I asked
hello?
was, why does time convince you there's a God? I don't need to know how familiar you are with me or anything else. Well, how familiar you are with me is irrelevant to absolutely everything you're going to be saying, right?
Yeah, I'm just expressing that.
Cool.
I know you know a lot about this already. So basically, I would be talking about the cosmological argument.
Wow, never mind. I don't understand. And I apologize. Let me do this real quick, and then I will shut up and take a back seat.
Yep.
I'm exhausted from people doing, not you, Jason, just hang on. From people doing this preamble of telling me what they want to do, or here's what I'm going to do, or here's the background, or whatever. Why does time convince you that there's a God? Go.
The impossibility of an infinite regress in the space-time continuum.
Cool. Thanks.
So, basically, moving on with that, you cannot have an eternal amount of past moments. And since time, matter, and space are in symbiosis, that's why it's called the continuum, of course.
Jason?
Matter itself is dependent on time. So if time
Jason?
has beginning, then matter has beginning.
Jason, how many past moments does God have?
God is, well, since God is immaterial, he would not be subject to the same idea of time that we have, or of sequence of events within our realm of reality.
How is this not special pleading?
Well, it isn't, because the only way we can come to a conclusion, as epistemology proves, is to come to the best possible answer to our questions. We're never going to know for sure.
No.
But how is
anything
that
that is
not
This isn't about
special
knowing
pleading?
for sure. This isn't about knowing for sure.
Yeah,
Well, if we are speaking metaphysically, the only way to come to any conclusion is via extrapolation and arriving at a conclusion that garners the best evidence.
Jason, do any of us have any capability to investigate beyond the boundaries of space-time?
Via extrapolation, or somewhat of a algebraic philosophical process, we can determine that there is a beginning of time and space and matter, meaning
That's not what
that
I
there
asked.
must have been
That's
a
not
cause.
even in the ballpark of what I asked. To whatever extent our current understanding of cosmology suggests that time and space began at roughly the same moment, because we can't explore prior to the Planck time. I'm asking you, if God exists outside of space-time, does anyone have the capability to explore beyond the boundaries of space-time?
Not with our five sensory apparatus. No, it would be philosophical.
What way could we explore it?
Via philosophical extrapolation of what we do know, like anything that we cannot sense
Extrapolation
with our
from what
five
we
senses.
do know to what we don't know about something we can't investigate is, for me, completely useless. The notion of an infinite regress. I mean, Carl Sagan famously answered that there isn't any necessary problem to it, but time doesn't actually work that way. A regress is specifically us looking backwards. If time began from our perspective at the instantiation of the expansion of space-time, then anything outside of that is beyond our ability to investigate. It would not be time. It might be meta time. It could be, it's like saying, when I first turned on my Sims game, space-time within their framework begins for them, but they have no ability to see space-time out here in my framework, or to even come up with a way to model it or suggest that it might exist. They don't even have a way to say, hey, there must be something beyond our space-time.
Right. So I'd like to possibly, I want to bring up consciousness, because is consciousness material, do you believe? I'm sorry, what's that?
You want to bring up consciousness because the time thing failed? Okay, what is it about consciousness?
Well, no. This is piggybacking, because consciousness material? Do you believe consciousness is material, or part of
I don't
the
believe
space-time
consciousness
continuum?
exists, or is material consciousness is the label we put on something the brain does.
Well, what I'm saying is we have evidence of consciousness, obviously, because we are conscious, but it's not
I'm sorry,
material.
I answered your question.
Did you hear what Matt just said?
Yeah.
Yes, I am positing that consciousness is immaterial.
How did Matt just define consciousness? What did Matt just say about consciousness?
I'm not exactly sure what he means.
Yes, exactly.
by that.
And
That's why
I
I'm
think it's important for No. Can you what do you think Matt thinks consciousness is?
Right, that's what I'm asking, and I didn't get
Okay.
He
answered it so clearly. He answered it extremely clearly.
Because
all I'm
You
sorry.
say, now
Could you repeat
stop
what
talking,
you?
please. Jason, stop
I didn't
talking.
ask what consciousness
Stop
was.
talking,
Okay.
Jason. I'm trying to answer your question again since you didn't pay any fucking attention the first fucking time. I
I
said
muted him for a minute.
that I am not convinced that consciousness exists as a thing, but I am convinced that consciousness is a label we apply to what the brain does. I don't know how you can say that I didn't give you an answer or a complete answer. I'm saying consciousness, from my perspective, is a description of what the brain does.
Is do you believe it's material? Consciousness.
Jason, I literally just answered that right before that. And that was,
So you
are
don't
you
believe that?
listening? Are you listening at all to the words coming out of my fucking mouth when I say I'm not convinced that it's material? I'm convinced that it's a label that we apply to what the brain does. If you're just sitting there with a fucking script, ignoring what I say, this call is not going
I'm
to
not.
end well for you.
Yeah, I understand, and I am listening to what you're saying, but I'm trying
I don't believe you. Show me
well,
some
I'm trying
fucking
to
evidence. Show me evidence, Jason, that you are listening to what I say.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is you believe consciousness is what the brain does, and that is a metaphysical concept. It's not material, and I agree with you. So then we have evidence of something beyond material with just simply our consciousness,
No.
which
It's
refutes
not evidence
materialism.
for something of the material existing. I said I do not believe it exists as a thing, qua thing, or that it is material. It is, in my view, what the brain does. The
Yes,
brain
that is
does all kinds
metaphysical.
of things like hunger, thirst, emotions, things like that. They're not real. They
Absolutely.
don't exist absent a brain. Show me consciousness absent a brain.
That would be God.
You then show me
But
God,
I
Jason.
believe,
Then show me
well,
God. I just asked
what,
you, Jason.
what we,
I just said, show me consciousness absent a brain, and you said that would be God. So show me.
yeah. Well, we require a brain to remember experiences and make decisions
No,
based upon
Jason.
those
Jason,
memories.
show me God.
Okay. Well, I said that to piggyback off of my initial position,
Okay.
which is you run into a block wall when you extrapolate
When you talk to
the
you,
space-time continuum into the past. So you run into a block
not my
wall
problem. That's a
because you
problem for God or the people positing a God. That's not my problem.
no, but it implies and we're trying to determine the most probable reality of this is that there is
No,
an existence
no, I'm
outside
not.
of time and
I'm not trying
matter.
to find the most probable reality. I'm trying to figure out what is reasonable to believe.
That's the same thing, and it's the
No,
only
it's
way
not.
we can come to conclusion.
No, it's not. You may not be able to determine what is most probable. You may not have enough information to reach a conclusion.
But that's our goal. And if we come to a block wall with materialism, then
Then you don't
that
get to make up
implies,
a God. You don't get to say, I've hit a wall, so I'm going to say it's God.
let's not say it's God. Let's say it's something beyond material.
Why would you say it's something at all? You are in a position where
Yeah,
you
you're
have a
correct.
question that you don't know the answer to.
You're correct. It isn't. God is not a thing, and that you're right. That implies an energy of some or matter. He's not a thing. He created things, and he is bound by the time that is applied to that material that he created. And that is what it implies via Occam's razor. And you can always come to Hitchens' razor after you've
I'm done.
exhausted your Occam's razor and come to a position. You can always use Hitchens' razor right after that, and then you'd never come to a conclusion.
Jason, what is your evidence that a God exists?
The block wall. Well, the one I'm talking about is the block wall you hit with materialism, which demands an existence beyond space, time, and matter, which is by my
Why?
definition God.
Why?
Because you
Why?
cannot have an eternal amount of past moments whilst existing in the present. Because you'd never make it to the present.
No, this is a
This
version
is
of
just
Zeno's
special
paradox,
pleading.
like saying the arrow can't reach the goal because it has to cross half the distance and then half the distance and then half the distance and then half the distance. You have created a
Oh no,
basic
yes,
error.
yeah, right. But Planck,
You can't say
Planck's
right,
theory
but
actually,
you can't. When I tell you you've created a basic error, you can't say right, but.
but Planck's calculations determined that length actually comes to a point where you can no longer divide it. That's I think it's 10 to the negative 35th or something like that. And that's another.
That is within the physical universe. That is not in any way applicable to an abstraction. Like there's an infinite series of numbers between the integers 1 and 2, correct?
Theoretically, not actually. No.
Not theoretically. It is a fact. There is an infinite series of numbers between the integers 1 and 2.
But the numbers themselves are theoretical.
Gee,
They're an extrapolation.
I am so
again.
fucking done with you, Jason. You refuse to answer questions honestly. And every time I point out a problem with what you're thinking, you try to spin it in a different direction with something else. The fact of the matter is, in mathematics, numbers are abstracts. And there is an infinite series of numbers between the integer 1 and 2. The only reliable, the only true response to that is, yes, that's correct.
That is correct.
Then why didn't you fucking say that a minute ago instead of trying to tap dance to something else?
Well, I mean, that I would have to say that it is theoretical because you'd never be able to actually encapsulate the eternity within a number. And mathematically,
you don't know what a theory is. You don't know what a theory is. You don't know what's theoretical. Okay. My apologies. I'm going to take a breath. Promise?
Yes, sir.
Please do whatever you want. I have zero interest in having any further conversation with him, but I am interested in what you think.
I'm still trying to figure out, back to the very beginning of the conversation, how this isn't all special pleading, because you've still made all these allowances that you won't allow for the universe, for the God that you're claiming the universe is sourced from. And to me, this just sounds like some combo of special pleading and God of the gaps and all of that. And I haven't heard anything to the contrary.
Yeah, we're never going to be able to box God in because, again, by definition, he's beyond material.
If by box God in you mean provide any evidence that a God exists at all, then yeah, that seems to be how this is going. So that's not if you don't have an answer to how this isn't special pleading, I'm personally ready to move on from the phone call. It sounds like Matt is too.
Absolutely, and I honestly enjoyed the conversation.
You're the only one.
Yeah.
And well, my apologies. But if you want to continue on, we could speak about the question of evil or why that.
No, Jason. I really just wanted the questions I wanted the ones we already had asked. Yeah, and we didn't. If it was, we didn't answer the ones that I did have. So yeah, with that, I do think we're ready to move on. You can call next time I'm on Chewed Gum if you want. That's on Tuesday nights. We're looking for theist callers over there, and you can call back then. Thanks, Jason.
Alrighty, I appreciate it, and have a better day, Matt.
Bite me.
That. I don't understand. It feels like sometimes we have callers that, not that I'm trying to, I have no idea how much Jason truly believes or not, whatever. I'm not going to pretend that I can read his mind. But it feels like we have some callers that call in that truly, truly believe and are just like having this conversation with us. And sometimes it goes poorly still because maybe their answers are just so painful and not helpful that the call goes badly. But it feels like they're answering questions, or they're at least attempting to be honest. Sometimes I feel like we have callers where it's a sport to them. They're like, well, let me try this argument. Like Pokemon cards, where I've never played Pokemon, so I don't know why I'm using that as an example. I don't know how it works. But where they're like pulling some card, like, okay, and now I'll pull Occam's razor against your hitch. It feels like they're not actually engaging with what's going on. And that's really frustrating because then we get nowhere, then I'm still like, how is this not special pleading? And it's like, well, we could talk about the problem of evil. I don't think we can. If you can't even tell me how this isn't special pleading, I don't want to have another conversation with you about another topic where you're going to special plead again,
It's wild because we got to, well, God has basically prevented itself from being detectable.
Yeah. Yep. We've got some other theists. Are you ready? Do you have any preferences, or you want me to just keep picking?
I'm gold.
Cool. Let's talk to Sec. Hello, Sec.
Hello.
You are live on the line with Matt and Promise.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Hello. Matt, do you believe that God does not exist?
I don't know. Which God are you talking about? There are gods where I believe they don't exist, and there are gods where I do not believe they do exist.
Which God is actually, well, we're talking about the capitalized G, not the small g. The
I'm sorry, but
all
the
powerful
capital
one.
G, the capital G doesn't tell me anything. I need to know the qualities of the God you're proposing. There are a number of different gods that
Okay.
people type with a capital G. Why are you? Never mind.
The God I'm talking about is all powerful and eternal. Yeah, there will be the bare minimum definition. So do you
Sec,
believe that God does not exist?
Hey, Sec, we're the hosts, so I'm going to ask you some questions real quick. Do you believe that a God exists?
Yes.
Okay, why?
We can do that later. I mean, I want to get first to atheism.
Then we can end the call. No, we can end the call then. I'm asking you questions.
I'm not okay, and we'll get to that later. Okay. I believe God
And
because
I'm going to
there are
end.
many reasons.
Okay, go ahead.
There
Sorry,
are
I didn't
many
know you were going
reasons
to
to
answer.
believe. Like for example, let me argue for God alone first. The universe cannot be eternal because there cannot be an infinite past. Because if there is an infinite past, how do I say this? There couldn't have been insufficient time for the present to happen before it did. Basically, it means there would have been enough time for the present to already happen before it did. You see?
It's literally the same as last call.
Were you? Yep. Were
No,
you
it's not the same.
listening
It's
to
not
the
the same.
call that we?
Yes,
This
it's
you're saying the
literally the same
exact
as
same
the
thing,
last
almost
call. And
word
the
for
fact that you
word.
don't realize that demonstrates the problem.
How is it the same then?
Because literally the fucking last caller said that the problem of an infinite regress was their primary reason for a God, and that you can't have an infinite series of things leading into the past. It's literally exactly word for fucking word what the last caller said.
Then ask me the same questions you asked him.
No.
Okay, then let's move to intelligent design. What is your response to intelligent design?
That I don't see any evidence of there being intelligent
this guy's
design.
not serious. He thinks this is some kind of fucking quiz show.
Yeah,
I'm not here to give you my response to everything that you propose that you don't define. You're here to say, here is what is believable and why. If you're not going to do that, because there's a number of different models of intelligent design, and none of them have been demonstrated to be science.
So there is no intelligent design. There is your response. Is that right?
No, that's not our response. And Sec, I don't understand why you think that this is where, like Matt just said, you're not. This isn't the purpose. Isn't for you to call in and ask us a bunch of questions. The purpose is for you to call in, tell us that you believe in a god or gods, and then we can ask you why you believe in that god and try to figure out if you have a good reason for it. If you just have a script, then this is going to be super boring because we just went through the script with the guy before you, the exact same script, almost word for word, and we ended it with him because it was just special pleading.
I have a lot of questions, so I can't answer a single one, or
Then
do I just have to give my...
Then maybe you can find another show where they have you call in to ask them questions, but that's not what this show is.
Okay. Then, man, you've heard of the precept argument, right? And do you think there's any flaw with it, or anything fallacious about it?
Sec, I'm not here for you to quiz me on what I think about every fucking argument. I'm not here for you to quiz me about anything. You're here to demonstrate a reason to believe to which we will respond. Are you a
I think
presuppositionalist? Sec, are you a presuppositionalist?
soft precept, but I'm not opposed to
Sec,
evidential
are you a
arguments.
presuppositionalist? Can you answer a yes or no question?
Yes.
Are you a
Can you?
presuppositionalist?
Yes.
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 Cool.
Mm.
So you presuppose the existence of God. Why are you trying to argue something that you presuppose? I don't think it's justified to presuppose a God, and I don't see the necessity, but also I'm incredibly disinterested in presuppositionalists because they're presupposing the very thing we should be discussing about whether or not it's real. That's my thoughts on presup. You can also watch my debate with Saiten Bergenkate or my thoughts on my video channel about Greg
Wait.
Bonson and other presups, but I'm not here to be quizzed by you. Are you going to present a reason to believe in a God, or are you just going to say
Yes.
you presuppose God? Because if you merely presuppose God, we're done.
Okay. Let me give you my argument first. It goes like this: nothing actual can be known without an infallible source, God. Things are known, so God exists. Do you think there's anything fallacious about it?
Yes. What do you mean by known? Is that absolute certainty?
Not it, the certainty is a consequence. It's not the defining. Knowing something is believing something which cannot be false, which cannot be wrong.
So you are saying that knowledge requires absolute certainty, because if you can't be wrong, that means you are absolutely correct.
You can be certain about something, but you can be wrong about it. But you can't know something without being certain about it. You see?
No, I don't. I reject the proposition that absolute certainty is possible, and I reject that it's required for knowledge. In philosophical terms, a common definition of knowledge is a justified, true belief, but whether or not we have access to truth is a completely separate question. So I prefer a definition of knowledge that fits better with what we're talking about from epistemology, which knowledge is a subset of beliefs where a belief is held to such a high degree of warranted confidence that it would be worldview altering to discover it's wrong. So your claim, your first premise that nothing can be known without a perfect mind, I reject that.
But there is the logical implication of knowledge. So wait, you deny knowledge. So do you believe there could be an infinite amount of leprechauns in the world as much as there are stars in the sky?
Did you just ask
Are
me if
you
I think
skeptical
there could
about
be
that?
an infinite? Did you just think I could ask me if I think there could be an infinite quantity of leprechauns? So I don't think there can be an
No, no,
infinite
no, no.
quantity. Stop talking. I don't think there can be an infinite quantity of anything
No, not
because
infinite.
infinity. Why are you fucking talking? Would you like me to answer your question or not?
Yes,
That's a
go
yes
on.
or no question. Never mind, I'm done.
Hello.
Yeah, and Zach,
Is there
unfortunately,
any?
you decided to completely ignore me. I guess maybe I don't know if you're scared of talking to women or if you just like Matt better, but yeah, I think it's probably good that we go ahead and let you go because I don't really feel like talking to you either.
So it's over.
It is over.
Yep. Your fault.
Thanks, Zach. Bye.
Okay.
So to answer his question,
I understand. Oh, go ahead. No.
I'm just saying, I'm not convinced. So infinity isn't a quantity; it's a concept to describe something that's unquantifiable. So if you ask me if there could be infinite leprechauns, first of all, I have no reason to think that leprechauns exist or can exist. You'd have to define them. But also, we don't need to do that because I don't think you can have an infinite quantity. Do I think that it is, in an abstract sense, like an infinite series of integers exists? And some infinities are bigger than others. Like for the positive integers is an infinite series, and the negative integers are also an infinite series, as is the bidirectional. And the bidirectional is going to be bigger because it includes both. It includes two different infinities, and yet they are endless. Every time we start talking about infinities in these discussions about God, I want to punch somebody in the throat because people don't understand it. It is not something that people grasp. People barely grasp the notion of a billion or a trillion, let alone a Googleplex, or infinite, because the other ones are quantities and they're trying to use this as a quantity as well. I have no idea if leprechauns can exist. I don't know what they are. I don't have any idea how many of them could exist because I don't know how much space they occupy. Maybe leprechauns are a special entity where they can occupy the same space and the same time in the same way, in which case, yeah, there's no reason why the assessment of leprechauns would be infinite. But if your argument for God, after you've already admitted that you presuppose God, is to start with, hey, do you think there could be an infinite series of leprechauns? We are not both taking this equally seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, that was wild. It was almost word for word what the other caller said, who I already forgot the name of. But
Oh, then ask me the same
the,
questions. No.
right,
Well, I don't know what
clearly
fucking
that,
show these
yeah.
people think they're calling.
Yeah, it's the exact caller I just talked about before we answered that caller. I was like, it feels like there's some people that call in just with this script where they just want to say, tell me how this argument works. Tell me about this one. How does this one go? It's very
And the other
frustrating. I
thing,
want to talk to people who really believe and then want to tell us why.
this is very important as well. And this is why this is never going to work. Sec and others. Atheism is the position of not accepting the God proposition. That's it. It's not a worldview. It does not in any way make any attempt or claim that it understands infinity or the origin of the universe or the biological diversity in life. It doesn't explain any of that. It's not an explanation for anything. And if anything, as a skeptic, my position on a great many of those issues are the three greatest words: I don't know. I don't pretend to know shit that I don't know, but theists claim they know the things that I don't know. And every time we ask them to demonstrate that in fact they do know, they utterly fail for millennia, not just on this show, not just in college, for the entirety of human existence. The people who are claiming that they have a magic answer to fill in the gap in our knowledge have failed to demonstrate to anyone that it's real. And when you follow the consequences of their magic answer, that if there is in fact a God that is obvious and we're just missing it, then why is God hiding? If you believe in a God and you believe that God interacts with people, go ask him what you should say to me, because any God that tells you to call into the show and talk about time and consciousness and infinite quantities of leprechauns is fucking punking you.
Yeah. Ugh. I want to do one of the episodes someday. I should remember this next time we do a show together. I want to write a sentence before on a piece of paper. I'm sure you've probably done this, and fold it up and then tell theists, if you think that a God wants to reveal themselves to me, then have that God tell you what I wrote down on this piece of paper, exactly what sentence, and then call and tell us. That would be something, at least. And that would be like super simple. Should have done that at the beginning of this one, but saving that. We've got a couple more theists on the line, but we probably will have time for more. So I know that there have been theists all over, as usual, my Facebook comments, even the one today posting about this episode. So call in and we can have a conversation.
And if any of them don't want to talk to me at all, I'm fine with that.
Cool. Yeah, you can just talk to me. Although then I think that you're just truly scared. Them, not you. All right, we've got Jacob here. Let's chat with Jacob. Hey there, you are on with Matt and Promise.
So, sorry if I sound a little nervous. I don't do well with calls. But good to talk to both of you.
Thanks for calling.
Right.
So, did you want to tell us what God you believe in, why you believe in that God?
Yeah. So, in all honesty, I was a Christian, and I'm kind of holding on to the God belief in weird ways. I'm not totally sure if this is the best starting point to come up with a conclusion, but that's just what I'm doing. Um, I kind of believe in a more physical God, and it's not like a being. It's more of like a emergent property of a mind, kind of like a sort of part of your consciousness or your brain, um, a state of mind almost. But it's like the way I would describe it is since it's like it's kind of transcendent in that it's in every single person, and it leads to the same kinds of ideas and conclusions. It's I don't know. That's kind of
Would
how I
this
would
thing
describe
still
it.
would it still exist if humans didn't exist?
Um, I don't think so. I think that I wouldn't say that. It's not like it's more. I think I'm kind of just honestly coming to this conclusion to say I believe in God more than like I believe in some like supernatural being who created everything kind of thing.
So, okay,
Um,
I'm confused. So, you're saying
mhm.
you think God is consciousness?
No, it's like so. I would say it's like a state of consciousness. So like in various religions, they have prayer, they have meditation. There's altered brain states in religion. A lot of religions have connections to certain drugs or dreams, or like lots of revelations through dreams. And I think that through a sort of altered consciousness, people can come to similar conclusions. Like a lot of religions sort of have I'm not saying they're all connected in like in that sort of way, like a supernatural kind of way, but people can kind of draw similar moral conclusions or something like that from this sort of state of mind. Um, so I think like it's it's sort of
How is that
natural
anything
transcendence
other
in that way.
than how is that transcendent? How is that anything other than, oh, humans in altered brain states sometimes reach similar conclusions about some things or sometimes cite similar experiences? Like, I still am not understanding the God part or anything other
I
than
think
just something happening within that person's brain.
I think I honestly I kind of agree. I think that the difference or the thing I would add to it is that since it like also connects to sort of feelings like peace or a sense of unity, that kind of thing, or feeling like a presence of
But
God
isn't
kind of thing. It's all physical though. Sorry, but
Yeah, but isn't that still just a feeling? How is that? What makes us think it's anything other than what we already know it is, which is not God?
I think that yeah, I think the reason I say God, it's kind of like a more. I kind of can't say I'm an atheist where I am, and so when I say I believe in God, this is kind of it. But I think what you're saying, like it is just a kind of physical state of mind. I think that's a more accurate way to put it. I think
Do you
it
think
just
that you're
being a
just
sort of yeah.
do you think you're just trying to call something God so that you still have the familiarity of belief in that, even though you don't really think that there's a God? You're just like, well, I know this is technically something else, but let me just call it God because that makes me feel like I haven't completely lost this thing.
It's a mix of that and like I can't really come out to like family and be like, oh, I'm an atheist and all that. So like I can kind of connect this to being a god and something. And
Yeah, I
it
totally get
feels
that.
sort of
I did that
yeah.
for a bit.
And I don't know, it just
And I
feels
think,
sort of
sorry,
intuitive. Oh, sorry.
I mean, that's something that confuse. There's a lot of things here that confuse me, Jacob, and I'm not going to get into all of them. But when you say you can't come out the family, do you describe the God you believe in to your family?
No, I do not. No.
Wouldn't that be a problem too? I mean, they probably think that you are still a Jesus worshiper, a Yahweh worshiper, whatever. And so you're running
Yeah.
around saying you believe in a God, and you're desperately trying to find something you can believe in that might qualify as a God, but you don't believe in the same God that they do. So at some point, even when you come clean, you're going to be like, hey, I don't believe in the God you believe in. How is that going to be different from saying I'm an atheist?
I guess it kind of was a progression from like just regular evangelical. Then I got into like all the esoteric stuff, like Christian Gnostic stuff, and then that kind of didn't really stick. And then I just kind of came down this way. It's You are right though. It's kind of more of a I just say this so I can kind of hold on to
No,
it, and it sort of
if
feels
you're already
intuitive.
lying to them, if you're already lying to them, why not stop lying to yourself?
I don't know. I think it is a sort of like a nice umbrella term for all this kind of thing, and it kind of makes sense in terms of I don't know. I can tell myself that these things all kind of originate in the brain, and they're all kind of it's within every other person. So it's kind of it's like transcendent among humans, and so it's kind of like God. I don't know. You're making more sense than I'm making though.
yeah, Jacob,
Well,
I think
go ahead.
I think it's I think this is worth you, like Matt says, just I understand not being able to be honest with family or even anybody else, and you don't owe those answers to other people, and that's fine. But even more so, you deserve to get to be honest with yourself, and you're going to feel so much better and more at peace when you're not having to try to tangle up this or conjure up some sort of belief that you already don't feel you have. And I'm sure Matt's going to mention it too. But recovering from religion, if you haven't heard of them yet, I highly recommend you check out their helpline and have a conversation with somebody there too, because they can even talk to you about the weight of not being able to share this with family. I'm glad you called about this, though. I think this is a really good call for people to hear because I think this is an issue for a lot of people, and you're just actually being honest about it, where the circumstances make it to where you almost, quote, have to believe. And so you're looking for whatever ways you can, even though deep down, it sounds like you're pretty unconvinced. And I don't think we can choose our beliefs. I think we're either convinced of something or we're not convinced of it. And so that tension of not being convinced, but then still trying to believe, I know that tension from years ago, and it is one of the worst feelings, and it is one of the best feelings to be able to be honest and figure out where you're actually at with all of this instead of try to keep all your ducks in a row with everything on the outside, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. It is just kind of a mixture of different things, and I think a lot of it is more I guess, uh, situation I'm in where I can't really be honest about it. So in order to kind of keep everything together, I just kind of come up with all these ideas to kind of throw some pseudo religion together, so I can say I have that kind of belief, I guess. Um, but that all makes a lot more sense than what I'm saying and what I had kind of written down to talk about. But yeah, thank you.
Because
Yeah,
the
no,
concept
I
you called in
appreciate the
about,
honesty.
it's weird because it
What was
says
that?
here in the call screener notes, it says that you're saying because conscious minds exist, it's possible for an existing conscious mind to exist again.
Oh yeah. So that was like my original thing because it's another kind of way I've made sense of maybe an afterlife could be real. But you guys asked what God I believe in, so I started with that.
How do you know it's
I could go into
possible for an existing mind to exist again?
I guess the way I kind of made sense of it in my head is through like I know hardly anything about physics. I'm not able to like go to like pay much for college. I don't have a whole lot of money, but I I saw there's lots of different models for the universe in terms of a cyclic model or multiverse model. And the way I kind of made sense of it is, what exists physically is possible to exist. And if it's possible to exist, and there's infinite chances for it to exist again, like it could happen again. That's kind of the way I made sense of it, in sort of like if I die, I could exist again in some sort of form. I don't know if it's a heaven or whatever, but it's
I don't know
yeah,
that
the way
that
I
represents. I don't know that that represents any demonstration of actual possibility. Within logic,
yeah.
there's this notion that whatever hasn't been shown to be impossible and whatever isn't logically impossible, it gets to be considered as possible. But it's like you could say the infinite monkeys banging away at typewriters could reproduce the words of Shakespeare word for word, but that's not the same as the original. And even if you gave all of those monkeys quill pens and paper, it wouldn't be the same ink, even if they scribbled around and eventually happened to duplicate a handwritten copy of Shakespeare that looks identical down to the narrowest, or down to our ability to hone in on it. So it's not just a typewritten word, it's literally you held up the paper and the paper looks like it was the original and the ink looks like it was original and it looks like it's Shakespeare's handwriting. That still wouldn't be the original. I mean, the notion, like, for example, the brain, the actual physical brain that I have right now is not the actual same physical brain that I was born with. The actual matter changes over time and gets replaced. And the structure and the connections in that structure are constantly changing. So the consciousness that my brain produces right now sitting in this chair is different from the consciousness it produced when I started talking to you on the phone. It is a dynamic target that doesn't change whether or not, given an infinite, given unlimited time. I guess we'll stop with infinity and beyond today. But given unlimited time, it doesn't change whether or not the fact that might be duplicated, but a copy isn't necessarily the same as the original. This violates the law of identity. And so while I might be okay with the notion that it is theoretically or hypothetically possible for a copy of my brain at this instant to exist at some other time or place in the universe, the instant that thing comes into existence,
Is it really you?
Pop,
like that question.
if a copy of my brain right now popped into existence somewhere else, the instant it comes into existence, it would already be different from mine and they would continue to diverge because they are impacted by their surrounding. So it is something of negligible significance or relevance. And I don't think, as your quote suggested, that could be considered in any way a reincarnation, because my continuity of experience, as far as I can tell, ends with my death and is not transferable to another copy of my brain.
And that's kind of the same question I had about, like, heaven, are you really you in heaven or whatever? And the same kind of question came up with this whole process I developed. And yeah, I really don't know. I think that makes more sense that it probably isn't you if it does happen again. I guess
the way the Bible describes it, the way the Bible describes heaven, for example, I don't think anybody could be there, but definitely my mom's not going. She thinks she's going, but my mom could not be. If my mom knows I'm in hell, there's no way my mom couldn't be sad, but there's no sadness in heaven, which means my mom can't be in heaven and be aware of my disposition. And also, there's no way my mom can't fail to be sad if she doesn't know whether or not I'm in heaven or hell. And so there's no version of my mom's consciousness and personality that can exist in a place without sadness. It would have to be
so it's like really not her.
Yeah, basically, God takes some copy of you, wipes out all the stuff that isn't compatible with heaven, and sets the rest free there. And to me, That is an absolutely pathetic, hollow shell of who and what you were. The things that make me me, the things that inform my position, and the things I enjoy are not always the good things. Sometimes it's good to be sad. Sad teaches you a lesson, makes you remember how much you care about something. This oversimplification of, oh, there will be no sadness in heaven. There should be sadness. There should be sadness for anyone who didn't get up there. But also, I don't want to live in an existence where the reality of who I am has been scrubbed out to where I cannot experience the full range of human emotions. Why? Oh, Matt, you get so mad on those calls. Yep, I do. If you're not going to answer the question, it's incredibly frustrating. I still show up. I've done it for 20 years. Love doing this, mainly because I love the opportunity for the next call or the next aha moment or the next, hey, I hadn't thought of it that way. Do I look forward to the smug religious people are stupid? I've got the argument that's going to make Matt look foolish. Matt doesn't understand infinity and beyond or whatever. No, I didn't look for that because they've made the same mistake that most of my debate opponents have made, which is instead of defending their claim and objecting to my positions, they make it about me personally. Go look at what, not, and this isn't just theists. Go look at the atheist community stuff. When I called Hector Garcia out, he didn't make a video saying, here's my debunking of Matt's arguments. He said, I debunk Matt Dillahunty, made it personal, and then decided to like psychoanalyze me for a good chunk of the video. And when you do that, you already lost. And he's not the only one. It's been that way over and over again. But back to the thing of heaven, if it's not me, if I'm not going to be experiencing it, if I can't be sad about the fact that somebody else, somebody I love isn't there, then it's no longer me. And so that means that this entity, which is going to change, I'm a dynamic brain. My consciousness is going to change. I'm going to have better days and worse days. Someday I'm going to cease to exist. If there's a life beyond that, I don't know how you can reach that conclusion, because like the ship of Theseus issue, what makes me today the air quotes same as me yesterday is a continuity of experience. If you took me yesterday, teleported me to today, without updating my brain for that gap, I would not be the same as I was after experiencing that gap. And so as we replace parts on the ship, we redefine what the ship is. I get what math is gets redefined every instant. We just don't bother to catalog it all.
That's a good point that I hadn't really thought of.
Yeah, Star Trek teleporters are suicide.
I don't know what else I can really say, but I do appreciate this call. Kind of made me think a bit more about this all, and I kind of made me honestly say what these thought processes really kind of are. Yeah, I do have a bit more thinking to do, and thank you.
Sure.
Thanks a lot, Jacob. Call back anytime.
All right. Yep. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye. The honesty is so refreshing.
It's nice.
Wildly refreshing.
And the thing is, if you walk away from a conversation like that going, you know what? I still kind of feel like there's some kind of soul and some kind of afterlife. Okay, fine. But if you walk away from that going, wow, those two, they just made stuff up and are saying that they know stuff and are dismissing things left and right without, evaluating. That's just not the case. I mean, there can't be an infinite regress. I have no idea whether or not that's true. I understand why people argue that. But then the question becomes, what is your solution to that? And why does your solution consistently go to, there's a magic being that knows everything and can do anything and exists outside of space-time. And that being doesn't have a beginning, doesn't have a problem with an infinite regress, because he's not moving within this space-time. Well, what time is he moving within? And is he infinite within that time? Because even in the example I came up with earlier of my Sims, if they were able to actually reasonably conclude that there is a world out here with a different set of rules for space-time, and that I am their creator, would they view me as infinite within my own space-time? And the answer is no. You can't reach, I'm not infinite within my space-time. And it would be a mistake for them to conclude that I'm infinite within my space-time. It may be justified for them to conclude that I am infinite with respect to their space-time, because if I'm there at the beginning and at every conceivable point, and I'm able to rewind, move around, all this stuff, within their thing, I am everywhere and everything. But that doesn't mean that they've solved the philosophical problem of an infinite regress. They have just moved it back one step, the same as they've done with a first cause. Oh, God is the uncaused cause. Well, congratulations. The Sims could look at me and say, Matt is the uncaused cause, except that I had parents.
Still a cause. And conveniently, a lot of times this uncaused cause that they have has a book deal here that generally their parents happen to read to them growing up. So it's very interesting how suddenly it gets real personal. We've got a few more theists before the show ends. Shall we talk to Sam next?
Okie dokie.
If I can get it to work. Oh. Hey there, Sam. You are on the line with Promise and Matt.
Oh,
Sam,
hello.
if you're... Oh, there you are.
Yes.
Hey there.
So I had trouble answering the part where, am I a theist or am I an atheist? Because does being a atheist mean you don't agree with the Bible's version of God?
No.
No.
Being a
So
theist, yeah, you go ahead.
an atheist is somebody who doesn't believe in any gods, and a theist would be somebody that does.
So who would be the one who would believe in a grand architect or a universe?
I don't know what you mean by grand architect for the
Don't know what
universe.
that is.
Like, okay, the universe being, some form of God or something. Can God be a system like our solar system? Is what I'm trying to say. Say like this consumes that.
The
That
solar
matter
system
has
is
that.
the
Now
solar.
it goes.
There is what's called the God of classical theism. And then there are various God categories. For example, I could say this bag of licorice is my God. And it wouldn't be in the same category as the God of classical theism, because I'm not claiming it's all powerful. Instead, I'm making some sort of other claim, like this is what I worship, or this is the thing I value. In the case of, it would probably be best for you to describe what it is that you believe, see if we agree, and then try to figure out what label might go to it. Because honestly, I don't care that much about the label. We only ask whether you're a theist or an atheist, just to kind of make sure that we're getting people who are going to defend their beliefs and not just call in to agree with us and complain about Project 2025 or something. So tell us what you believe and why we should share that belief.
Okay. Well, this might sound like I'm, probably counterculture. I'm bandwagoning both sides, but it's confusing because if God is our creator and the Yggdrasil, which would be across cultures, the Vikings, they would call themselves the children of Yggdrasil. In Vietnam, in Buddhist culture, they'd call themselves the eggs of the dragon. And
Sam?
in Latin,
Sam,
yes, sir.
I don't need a book
Yes, sir. Can you hear
report.
me?
I need you to tell me what you believe and why we believe it, or why we should believe it.
Okay. Well, if something spurned our evolution, right, and it came in the form of pupae from space in a comet or asteroid, but
Sam,
something else consumed that,
Sam,
would that not be a
Sam,
God?
Sam, when you tell
Yeah.
someone what you believe, it should never start with the word if. Just tell me what you believe and why we should believe it.
Oh, okay. Well, I believe that God has a God, And I guess when people refer to God, they refer to the system of God.
So you believe in multiple gods?
I believe that it's not so simple. Like, if something spurned our evolution, it's something you can consume it. It can sling itself with the gravitational belt. And it feels like the thing on our
Sam,
Earth, our
Sam,
immediate, let's say
Sam,
we have an immediate God.
Sam,
Yes, sir.
you jumped from, I believe that God has a God and it's a system of God. And then when Promise asked you a question, you jumped to evolution and slinging something through a quantum belt. Define God.
Uh, well, what would be our immediate God is God is the reason for our creation, meaning we evolved. There was no microbes or anything prior to this form of God.
I do not believe that we were created. Please demonstrate that we were created.
Well, there was nothing that slithered or swam on this earth. There was no microbes prior to the terraformers, which would be the Yggdrasil.
That's not in any way addressing my question. I asked you to demonstrate that we were created.
So evolution has nothing to do with how we were created. If we, there was no
Correct.
microbes or anything.
Evolution is about the change in life and explains the genetic diversity. Abiogenesis focuses on how life originated. We don't necessarily know how life originated, but you're claiming that life was created, and I'm asking you to demonstrate that in fact life was created rather than life occurred naturally.
Oh yeah, life is the evolution of death because we spent more time in death than we did alive, and there's
Okay,
things that operate
I
on
give
that
up.
scale.
I don't know how to ask questions of you to get to an answer, because when I asked you to demonstrate that we're created, and you're like, well, life is the blah blah. I mean, this is sophistry of Chat GPT levels of absurdity that have nothing to do with how you would demonstrate that that life was created rather than occurred naturally.
Oh, you mean like someone willfully decided? No. Well,
That's what
worms
creation
ate.
means. Creation means that someone intentionally created something. It does not mean that something just happened. How do you prove that we were created rather than we happened?
Oh, okay. That's why I said spurned rather than created because it wasn't something like, oh,
No,
I want to make
sir.
a human.
No, sir. You said created.
Yeah, because I felt like
I would not have
you
asked
needed to
you.
know the meaning
I
of it.
would not have asked you to prove we were created if you hadn't said that. If you'd like to back up and rephrase whatever it is you're claiming, that's fine. But don't you dare gaslight me by suggesting you did not say the word that I heard you say and asked you to prove.
Because you gave me two choices. You said, were we created or were we naturally, happened? And I wasn't sure about
Sam,
which one you meant.
Sam, in the call screener fucking notes, it says Yggdrasil supernova or what's that last word? Creator. Just a minute ago,
Creator, question mark.
if I rewind the
Yeah,
fucking
creator question.
call, if I rewind the fucking call, will they hear the word creator or created coming out of your fucking mouth? Yes or no?
Yeah, they would, of course.
Cool.
You said it first. So,
Stop fucking gaslighting me on my show and either back up and do it right or demonstrate that we're created, or I'm going to drop you like a hot fucking rock. Clear?
okay, yeah, cool.
Cool. Thanks.
So, anyways, um, so evolution would not be possible in the way we mate without the Yggdrasil. Is that fair to say?
No, I have no idea what that's supposed to mean.
Okay. Well, it's in the Kabbalah, the Torah, as well as other famous works, just in Masonic history and stuff like that. But there was no such thing. Like say for example, the dragons, right? The dragons of the east, dragons of the west. It was more symbolism that something came in the form of Pupae in a comet asteroid, and went to Earth and it could comfortably incubate magnetic soup, right? If something can drink magnetic soup, meaning lava, would that not be kind of godlike?
This is not real. This is not
What
fucking
are you
real
even
life. You are
talking
not a
about?
real fucking person.
Oh man, yeah, I know it's hard,
Do you think
but
that dragons exist?
You know it's hard. Why the fuck are you
not in the
talking
way that
about dragons and pupa and drinking stuff? Prove we were fucking
because that's the
created.
word we.
I don't need
Yeah,
you to tell me
well,
a story. I need you to tell me the why we should believe the story.
because it doesn't know if it's God. Well, how would God know if God is God? If it doesn't need to measure, say you don't need space technology for fucking pollen to fly everywhere. That isn't a 10 space technology, but what we deem as
I'll give,
Armageddon is something remains.
I'll give anyone $100 if they cut and paste the words that just came out of Sam's mouth and explain how that has anything to do with creation or reality or the facts that might demonstrate that something is true. It is absolutely impossible. Sam is spewing forth garbage nonsense, incomplete and incoherent thoughts. Sam, can you demonstrate that we were created or not?
No, not in the way that you.
No.
You know,
Then,
created.
then, thank you, Sam. Thank you. If you can't demonstrate that we were created, I'm not going to accept your claim that we were created, and therefore there's no creation to explain.
But okay, then I probably got it mixed up with how to explain existence, right? If God didn't notice God was God, would we be able to argue that God, there's no such thing as a form of God?
Put the bong down.
If you could do something,
This is, you have yet to prove that there's a God. So why are we talking about things this God would know or not?
If God doesn't know that God is
well,
God,
This is,
pass that fucking
there's
bong.
there's something that is so great in scale in space that when it travels light year to light year, it looks like an earthworm trying to fit through a drinking straw from its
I
point of
give up.
view. So that's not the
yeah,
one that learned their evolution. That's the one it's running from. So there's no such thing as a space race. It's more of an escape. And since we're less traveled than these, the oldest alien on Earth,
Sam,
we are our immediate
Sam,
God, the
so
one that came from the
Sam,
meteor.
I can mute you or you can listen to me. So
Oh yeah, I can listen.
I hear you telling stories and saying things, and I have yet to hear you answer any of our actual questions or tell me why we should believe these things that you're saying.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't.
So you're
You
just
should
calling to
wonder.
tell us stories. No, then why are we not just making up all kinds of random shit forever and then
Okay,
just
well, I
believing it?
disagree with this. Say if you were in a. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
You're already talking.
Okay, thank you. So, say I was in church and someone says, "Oh, someone's talking to me and they're God," and I would be like, "No, it's probably a telepath." You know, so that would not be God to me if that's what you're, needing for me to explain a creator or an all powerful, which are completely different. Because I believe God doesn't even know God is God. Because
Can
wouldn't
you
that be hell to us?
can you define God for me so I know what you're talking about?
A God is something, right, that allows for our existence and does something with us in matter or dark matter, some would say.
So my parents are God?
But no, they created you, right? They're not the reason for your existence.
They I don't know who else would be.
Well, okay, your parents can't eat the sun, right, to cause a supernova, but they can be
How did
born
you
from something
determine
that eats
th-
the thing.
But Sam, this is what the problem is and why I think it's probably time to move on to our next caller. You kind
Well,
of started answering some of my questions and then all of a sudden you leapt to something about eating the sun in a supernova. You can't keep making these giant leaps and start getting into storytelling mode, because this isn't a storytelling
It's not
show.
storytelling.
This
I
is not,
promise
we
you.
don't, it is when you don't actually offer any evidence or reason to believe any of the stuff that you're saying. And when you don't even say it in a way where we can
Okay.
keep track
Well,
of what
here's
your
a
point
scientific
even is.
fact. Here's a scientific fact. A supernova is never because the sun runs out of energy. Something fucking needs it. Something absorbs it, and the stimulus consume the rest of everything around it. There's no such thing
Can
as
you
the
tell
sun running
me,
out of energy.
can you tell me what that is supposed to mean about anything else we were just talking about?
God can end existence. Not
How do you know
create,
this?
or in the way that I got it wrong, saying create. I don't care about the creation part. I care about the existence part. What is there when we die?
Sam doesn't get
You know,
to
what
claim
came
that
first,
something's
the
a
chicken or the
scientific
egg?
fact
Death
and let
came
it sit
first.
there. Supernova are the explosive death of a star. You have to demonstrate that something's eaten it. You don't just get to say that it's a scientific fact that it's been eaten. You'd have to prove it. And I'm not interested
Death
in you
star
wasting
means
any of
it
our
runs out
shut
of
up.
energy.
Shut up. I'm not interested in you wasting any of our time on your nonsense. Go write a scientific paper that proves
you're
that
welcome.
supernovas are not the death of a star, but are actually something eating the star. And when it gets published, call me back.
Okay, fair. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
All right. All right.
I wasn't able to
I'm
follow any of
I'm
that.
very sorry. I had to pee, but also I shouldn't just bail on promise without letting her know that I'm actually coming back. I mostly just had to pee, but let me be really clear. I've done this for 20 years, and I know I have a shorter fuse than other people, in part because of that. Also, because I give a fuck about this. These subjects are among the most important, not because there may or may not be a God, but because people genuinely believe there are gods and then act and vote and impact everybody's life because of it. When I'm on the show, do not call with your bong rip theology of your esoteric notion of I read a story somewhere, so now we've got to find something that moves at the speed of the light and eats supernovas and interacts with us, and so is absolute garbage. It does not reflect any relevant or useful God concept. It isn't doing anything to impact how you're voting, other than the fact that you're clearly too high to be taken seriously for anything. It is, I don't believe you. I don't believe you believe this shit. I don't believe it's relevant. I believe that you guys are doing this just to call in to irritate me specifically and waste my time and my audience's time, because this isn't the product of anything approaching serious theology. And by the way, I've mocked theologians as being an expert or claiming to be an expert in something they can't even demonstrate as real. But at least we're not sitting around talking about, well, your parents can't eat the sun, therefore they're not your creator. This was a cavalcade of non sequiturs that we are all more stupid for having listened to. And if people are like, oh, why can't Matt just sit there and do this? Because I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste Promise's time. I don't want to waste the audience's time. And there are people out there who have genuine beliefs. And I'm about to say, if there's not a church that people can attend, a service, a gathering of people that someone can attend who believe what you believe, fuck off. I don't care. I don't want to do that because it ends some of the discussions about some really interesting concepts, some intuition pumps, some thought experiments that might make it so that we can get some headway on some of these subjects. But not only do I not have any more patience for bong rip theology, I don't want to have any more patience for it. There are things that I do and say where I'm making attempts to change it. I'm giving much more time to the co-host, and when my questions don't get answered quickly enough, I'm like, okay, you guys try. Let's see. I have nothing else here. I'm stuck because I recognize I'm not going to communicate well with everybody. I'm not going to be the one that comes up with the right question to ask for clarity. Somebody else might or should. And really, at this point, I think that's great. But there are certain things that I'm not going to change. I'm not going to change whether or not I'm interested in spending time discussing a God that you came up with while you were high on reading fantasy novels. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't know how you still do it after all this time, because I know it gets
Evidently not
infuriating
very well.
after a couple hours. I beg to differ, but we do have two last theists to talk to. Let's talk to
Awesome.
Taryn. I'm so sorry. You can let me know how to say your name correctly, but hello there. You are live with Promise and Matt. How can we say your name correctly?
Yeah, ma'am, it's Tarun.
Taryn. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what which God did you want to talk to us about, or what evidence for a God?
I want to know about, sorry, my English is not that good. So if you can manage, please.
What did you call to talk about?
I want to know what do you think of God as a pure consciousness?
God as a what consciousness?
Pure consciousness. As super consciousness.
I'm sorry, the audio quality is a little poor,
Yeah,
and I'm
I
having
can't
difficulty
hear at
understanding
all.
what word you're saying.
A pure or a super consciousness.
Oh, I have no evidence that any such consciousness exists.
What is the proof of that I exist?
I don't have proof that you exist because I don't have a solution to the problem of hard solipsism. But within the framework of the world I experience, you clearly exist because we're having a conversation. Now, whether or not you're a human or an AI generated voice, I yet don't have, evidence to make the distinction. But given the assumption that I am not living in a solipsistic universe, which I can't demonstrate, but I'm happy to operate under, then you exist at least as partially convincing as Promise's existence.
So what is the proof that you exist without being saying that you can say you in any of the sentence you being in there.
I exist is, I think Descartes probably solved this the best with cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. The mere fact that I am thinking and experiencing is confirmation that I exist. It doesn't confirm that what I experience as reality is in fact reality, but it shows that even if I'm being deceived, there still must be a me to deceive. And the only problem with Descartes' cogito was pointed out by Hobbes, which is it is conditioned on the primacy of reason. So as long as I accept that reason is reasonable, then I think, therefore I exist is a demonstration that I exist. It doesn't tell me how I exist or what I'm experiencing is accurate.
I couldn't hear your voice properly. Sorry for that. Could you please explain?
I'm wondering what evidence there is that some higher consciousness exists.
Just like, how is the proof that I exist? And if
I just gave
yes,
you the reason that I exist. I'm asking you, what reason should I believe that some higher consciousness exists?
then what's there for a living?
I don't understand.
Why do we live? Why do we have to live?
No. We need to stop.
What for?
Stop and listen. You asked me what reason I had to think I exist, and I explained that. I asked you, what reason should I have to think that a higher consciousness exists? And you are not answering my question. Instead, you are asking different questions. This isn't a quiz show. If you're claiming that a higher consciousness exists, I'm unconvinced. It is now your job to explain why I should be convinced, or to say, okay, you're not convinced, let's do some other topic. Did I get dropped?
I don't know.
No,
Are
no.
you there?
Yes, I couldn't hear you properly. Sorry for that.
Okay.
Your voice is low.
Evidently, the connection and perhaps
Yeah,
the language barrier is going to prevent us from having any kind of discussion. I don't believe in a God or a higher consciousness because I haven't been presented with sufficient evidence to justify those beliefs. I do believe that I exist because I think, therefore I exist. And I believe that promise exists because we've had a lot of conversations, and I don't think that she's an AI generator. Oh, yes, and we've been in each other's presence.
I
That
was about
too.
to say, we've also hung out in person.
Yes, I was trying to avoid saying that would. I didn't want anybody to think that would be the criteria. Like, I happily believe that promise existed
Fair enough.
long
You're
before
right.
we actually met in person. But Taryn, I'm convinced that you exist in whatever capacity you are, whether or not you are a human being or a computer generated voice. I don't yet know, but the technology that allows us to communicate is also serving as a barrier to understanding. And unless you can give me a reason why I should believe in a higher consciousness, I don't even know what a higher consciousness is. I hope it's not a bong rip consciousness, like a higher on drugs, but I don't know what else to say.
Is there any scientific evidence which can say where I exist in a body? Hello?
I can't barely hear. The connection is so bad. And so based on what I think you just said, you just didn't listen to anything Matt already answered. So
I was asking you to give a reason why I should believe in a higher consciousness. And you just asked if there was, I think, scientific evidence that you
No,
exist in a body. I'm asking you.
we will come to that. We will come to that.
I'm asking the fucking questions here. I'm asking you to demonstrate why we should believe in a higher consciousness. The response should
have,
not be a question.
yes. Why?
Goodbye.
all right. Yeah, I think we're gonna move on to our last caller. Bye, Taryn. Yeah, the not answering questions. But I couldn't I don't know if it's because I'm in Finland too, and the delay is so bad for me too, and then I could not hear at all. So between all of
There's
those
an
things,
echo
I was
of my quality. I mean, and chat was hearing it too. Somebody was like, yes, I'm calling
okay.
from a tote bag in a warehouse
Yeah,
in
that's
Canada.
how it was sounding for me.
But aside from that, I
Uh,
mean, this is one of the things I hope people understand. So first of all, the technology is great in that we're live, we're able to take calls, able to have conversations. There's a delay between me in the studio and between Promise in the studio, which means there's a delay between Promise and myself. And you're going to see us step on each other's toes on occasion, but it's, we're getting better at figuring it out. I wish it wasn't the case. I wish that we could do the shows on something like a Zoom call where the delay is less amplified, but that doesn't work for these kind of shows. Then the system that we use to take calls has an additional delay in it. So there's a delay getting the audio to us and a delay in our audio getting back. It has been as much as 2.5 seconds between us and callers at various times. This is the nature of things. And it's going to get frustrating. But we continually try to find something good and communicable that we can pull out of the call. In that case, if I'm sitting here saying, hey, I need you to give me a reason to believe in a higher consciousness, or say, let's move on to another topic. And your response is to ask, is there scientific evidence that I exist in a body. And then when I say that an answer to one of the question shouldn't be a question, and you say, why? I think you're full of shit and trying to waste time.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
convinced of
Ugh.
many things, not the least of which that answering my question with a question after I said don't do that. Anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we have Watcher 215 is our last
excited.
call for the show.
Like, genuinely, I hope this isn't a pranker problem, because when somebody says, I want to explain what God I believe in and why, like genuinely at the start of the fucking show, promise I was like, what would be a perfect call? And I was like, I said something along the lines of having a caller say, hi, here's what I believe in and why you should believe it. I'm
Right,
hoping
yeah,
that
that's what we
finally
want.
now at the end of the show, Watcher 215 is going to do that. So welcome to the show, Watcher 215. What do you believe and why?
Hey, good afternoon, Matt, and good afternoon, Promise. I believe in there's a message in the Bible, and I believe in the God who sent Christ into the world as the light of the world, and said to listen to him and to obey what he said. That's the God that I believe in.
Okay.
Okay,
Why?
then why do you believe in this God?
Well, I can give you 9 particular reasons, and they would all be what is called in the message of the Bible the fruit of the Holy Spirit, which is love,
Matt and I both are very well aware of what the fruits of the Spirit are in the Bible, but why are those things reason to believe?
Can you tell me what it is? Can you tell me what it is if you're aware?
Can you tell me why you're listing those things as evidence for God? Because I have to already stop you when you're citing the Bible as your piece of evidence. The Bible is the claim. So we're looking for the reason why we should believe what the Bible says.
It's weird though. I thought you said 9, because there's 7 gifts of the Spirit, not 9.
Well, I know of love, joy, peace.
Yeah.
Patience.
See, when I was on the bus to church
goodness,
when I was a little kid,
I wasn't finished, Matthew.
when I was on the bus to church when I was on the bus to church as a little kid,
I wasn't
they
finished.
taught it. Well, I know you weren't finished. It's not your
now,
fucking show. When I was on the bus to church as a kid, we had to learn a little rhyme and a way to memorize the gifts of the Spirit. And so it's one, gun, love was what we were taught. So you start with number 1 and it rhymes with gun. And in order to get it to stick in your mind, you imagine a gun who with a big heart on the side of it, and it's just spewing love out instead of that. That's the way they taught us to memorize that. 1, gun, love. 2, shoe, joy. And he mentioned a shoe with a mouth on the front singing joy to the world. And so as a former Christian, and as someone who's read the Bible multiple times, and as someone who's taught the Bible, preached the Bible, and was going to be a preacher, I'm well aware of the 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit. I'm not aware of the 9. And when you tell us why you believe, if you just believe because the Bible says so, that's never going to convince us. I've already made it past that what's in the Bible isn't true just because it's in the Bible. It needs external confirmation. So yes, the 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit.
Well, I think he's talking about the fruit of. I think he's talking about the fruit of the Spirit. The love, joy, peace, patience, kindness,
not the
goodness.
7 gifts, the fruits. Yes, you're correct. I got that completely wrong.
Yeah. Which I know because my middle name is one of them.
The gifts are like wisdom, counsel, knowledge,
right,
understanding, whatever.
Yeah, no, he's talking about the fruits, which still everything he said still stands. So
because it's 1, gun, love, 2, shoe, joy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
love, joy, peace, which I know because my sisters and I. Well, I don't even remember what my question was at this point. What was I asking him?
How does it
why
prove
should
God?
Yeah. So Watcher, we'll let you're back on now. Maybe hang on. There we go. Why should I care what the Bible says the fruits of the spirits are?
Well, love is very important. All of the fruit of the spirit, the nine fruit of the spirit, are very important in life. It's something that I've experienced, and I believe you've experienced. Matt has experienced, and these things are demonstrable and experiential
Do you know that there are
proof
other books
of the Holy Spirit.
before? There are other books before that talk about these things as well. These are human experiences, emotions, qualities. None of this equals God. You're also
Well,
subjectively saying that these things are important. Maybe some of these are important to you.
Yeah. You don't, do you not think any of them, or have any of these been important to you in your
They've
life?
all been important to me.
Sure, but
Please explain how any of them demonstrate that God exists.
Well, it's a fruit, and the fruit is a demonstration of something.
No, sir.
So it's
Listen very carefully.
okay.
You're
I'm
claiming
listening.
that love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, whatever, continuing, you're saying these are fruits of the Spirit. I'm saying I don't believe
Yeah.
they are fruits. I don't believe they are fruits of the Spirit. I don't believe there is a spirit for them to come from. I don't believe they are the product of a God at all. I believe these are evidenced in the existence of human beings and conscious beings' interactions. So we need you to demonstrate not that they prove God because they're fruits of the Spirit, but that they are in fact fruits of the Spirit, which would prove God. The fact that they're important, the fact that we experience them, is not proof of God. It's not proof that they're fruits of any spirit. I'm not aware of anything spiritual or any spirit at all.
You yourself are a spirit, so you're not aware of yourself.
Prove that I'm a spirit.
Watcher, do you have evidence of anything, or did you just call in to make claims?
Well, all of our evidence is the reality that we all experience. And
No, sir.
I experience my spirit. I experience
No,
my
sir.
spirit. That's how I know that I am a spirit.
How can
And
you know that you're a
you
spirit?
are
How can you know that I'm a spirit?
because my spirit is the thing that knows my thoughts. I know my
Now you're
thoughts,
just
and I
making shit up,
experience that.
Watcher. You're just making shit up.
I'm
Your
not that
brain is
that's
what
So
knows.
that's
Watcher, your brain is what knows. You said I'm spirit. I said, how can you know I'm spirit? And you said, because your spirit knows. Your brain knows. You haven't demonstrated that there is a spirit to know. How can you prove that anyone is spirit?
my spirit knows my thoughts.
Watcher, how can you prove that
Can you-
anyone is spirit? You don't get to point to spirit to claim that it proves spirit. That's circular reasoning.
I'm experiencing it, and you are experiencing it right now. We're both experiencing
I give up.
our
Watcher, you're
spirit.
making claims over and over again. We're asking you to try to provide evidence for the claims that you're making.
Okay, the evidence is the words that I'm speaking to you right now.
The
My
words that you're
spirit
speaking are evidence that Matt and I are hearing a voice over this call. That's it.
where is that coming from?
Supposedly from somebody who calls themselves Watcher 215.
My name is Jeffrey, but my internet name is Watcher215. And you know this
Great.
by faith because I told you.
No, we don't know it by faith. We don't know it by faith. I'm reading it off of the screen because that's what you supposedly told the call screener, and I have no other choice but to call you this because that's what's there. So for practical reasons, that's what we're calling you. This is not. There's zero faith involved.
I have no reason to
Do
think
you
you've
believe
ever
it?
called. I have no reason to think you've ever called yourself Watcher 214 before today. I'm only responding to you saying this is what you would prefer to be called. If you are in fact lying to me about the name you go by or what you prefer to be called, that's on you. But the fact that I'm not claiming to know that you've ever used this name before at all. Please demonstrate how you can know that anyone is spirit.
I know it by experience. Like I said, my spirit knows my thoughts as well as you and
How,
Promise both.
Watcher,
We all
how is that
experience. We
anything,
experience.
Watcher, how
I
is
hear
that
you.
anything
Go
other
ahead.
than, how is that anything other than you just having you hearing us and experiencing something?
Right. So this is evidence, right? Our experience is not evidence. What we experience is
Can you
not
answer
evidence.
my question? How is what you're experiencing a spirit and not just a natural phenomenon of hearing us talking and yourself thinking?
Oh, because I have understanding, because I've read the Word of God, which gives you understanding of who we are and what we are.
Prove it.
Because I have that understanding,
Prove it.
prove what?
That you have understanding from the Bible that is accurate.
Okay, so our spirit knows our thoughts. This is what
No,
this
sir.
is what the
You
Word
don't
of
get to
God says.
assert anything about a spirit until you demonstrate that there is a spirit. I don't know why this is so difficult.
We're demonstrating it right now. I already answered this. When you
No, sir,
speak
you
to
have
me,
not
Matthew,
fucking answered it. You have made assertions. Demonstrate that we are spirit. Don't just claim it.
well, we're having a conversation, right? Are we not having a conversation, Matt?
Is it possible to have a conversation
Jeez.
and not be spirit?
No.
Prove it.
How will we prove that?
That's not my
That's what we're
problem. You're the
asking
one making a
you.
claim. It's not my fault if you don't have a way to prove it.
I'm saying, I'm asserting that we're proving that we are spirit by our conversation right now.
I don't care what the
You
fuck
can
you're
demonstrable.
asserting. I want you to prove it. Do you know how to prove anything?
You're proving it, and I'm proving it right now.
You're not proving shit.
We're talking.
Talking
Your
is proof
spirit
that
is
we're talking.
communicating.
Talking is proof that we're
No,
talking.
it's
It's not fucking proof that we're
proof.
spirit. It's not fucking
It's
proof that
proof.
we're spirit. It's proof that we're talking. Having sex isn't proof that you're a
Okay,
banana.
Okay, we'll agree that we're talking. And what I'm telling you is that the demonstration of talking is an actual proof of the spirit man within both of us.
I
using our bodies
genuinely
to
don't
do
give
so.
a fuck if you assert one more fucking time and not. Okay, let's try this. Let me back up. Watcher, if I told you that the sky is blue because there are pixies that paint it, and you said, prove it, and I said, my spirit tells me this is true, would that be a proof?
No.
No. So prove that we have spirit, or that we are spirit.
Like, when we talk, when we know our thoughts, we prove that there is spirit. When each of us know our thoughts,
No, we don't,
we are
Watcher.
proving
No, we fucking
that.
don't. No, we don't.
I don't.
Well,
if you're just going to keep asserting that we do, I'm going to keep asserting that we don't.
well, again, you have to
I don't need you to
believe. You
again
have to have
anything. I swear to your fucking God, I don't need you to again anything. I need you to move forward to a demonstration of truth. I am exhausted from your bullshit assertions, and you're pretending that you've explained anything or demonstrated anything. Do you have some way to demonstrate your claims that should convince all of us?
Yes.
Do it.
The demonstration again is me speaking.
Mother.
Okay.
Watcher, can I explain to you what you're doing? This is the same as me saying to you, hey, this conversation is evidence that spirits do not exist. Because we wouldn't be able to have this conversation if spirits existed.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I just heard a beep. I didn't know if I was muted or not. Okay.
Can you hear what I just said?
I'm trying to understand what you just said. You said it's the same thing as you saying this conversation.
But this conversation is evidence
Mm-hmm.
that we do not have spirits. That's why we're able to have this conversation, is because there are no spirits.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Exactly. That is exactly what you're doing.
So what I'm saying doesn't make any sense to you.
Correct, because all you're doing is asserting something and you're not giving us a reason why we should believe that that's true. It sounds as absurd to us as what I just said to you sounds absurd to you.
The reason is when I'm speaking, I'm saying this is coming from my spirit through my
And I
body.
am telling you that when I'm speaking, it's coming from my non-spirit.
A non-spirit.
So which one of us is right? Watcher, how do we determine which of us is correct?
What is a non-spirit? I don't understand that. What is a
The opposite
non-spirit?
of whatever you're saying. The opposite of whatever you're claiming.
Okay.
So how do we determine who is right? Me, who says there are no spirits, and I'm proving it to you right now by talking to you. Or you, who says, do you want to listen, or do you want to listen, or do you want to keep talking over me so that you're not going to even be able to answer my question?
I wasn't trying to talk over you. I was trying to get understanding.
Cool. Let me say it again. How do we determine who is correct between you and me? I'm saying there are no spirits, and I'm demonstrating this by having this conversation with you. Because I say that you can only have conversations if you don't have spirits. And then you are saying we have spirits, and we're demonstrating it by having these conversations, and that's how you can tell. So how do we determine who's correct, you or me?
Well, we have to exchange understanding between each other, have understanding between one another. That will require us conversing back and forth. You understanding what I'm saying, and I understand what you're saying.
That is what Matt and I have been trying to do for about 17 minutes now. I'm trying to figure out why you think that this conversation means there are spirits, and you have yet to answer that.
The answer is when I'm responding to your question right now, this is my spirit communicating to you through my body.
And I'm telling you that when I answer back to you, this is me with zero spirit communicating back to you. And this is evidence that I don't have a spirit, because I'm not using a spirit. I'm using my vocal cords. I'm using my lungs. I'm using my mouth.
So there's natural things, and then there's the spiritual. Reality is
and I'm telling you that there isn't. I'm telling you that there isn't spiritual. What's your evidence that there is?
Well, we are the evidence. We are the evidence. We experience it every day.
That's not an answer, Watcher. I don't know that you're capable of having this conversation at this point, because I've tried to give you so many opportunities to answer this. Because I could say the exact same thing. I can say, we are the evidence that there are no spirits.
That doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. That is exactly my point.
No, but what I said does make sense.
No, it fucking doesn't.
It doesn't. It doesn't at all.
What is spirit? What is spirit? Define spirit.
It's our inner man. It's the inner man. We are spirit.
I don't know what that is. I don't have an inner man.
Hey, you heard that Police album, right? Spirits in the material world, they were right about that. That's us.
Okay, cool.
And
Thanks for fucking nothing.
mhm.
I asked you a specific question and you went to a Police album that is a song
Yeah,
that isn't
yeah,
saying what you're saying, but even if it was, that also wouldn't prove
it
shit.
is.
Hey, did you see the
It's
first
just
Star
saying
Trek movie
exactly
where
what I'm
fucking
saying.
Kirk asked God what God needs with a starship?
Yeah,
Did you
I
see
think
the
I
movie
vaguely remember that.
did you see the movie where Al Pacino played Satan and said, God is an absentee landlord? Please tell me,
Yeah,
what
he
is
was
a
wrong.
spirit?
Pacino was wrong about that because God is the ultimate
Oh
humanist,
my
not the devil.
fucking God, Watcher. It's a fucking movie.
Yeah,
Prove that in
yeah,
reality we are
yeah. It is.
spirit. Define spirit right
We're
fucking now.
we are spirit. I defined it.
No, we're
We
not.
are spirit.
That is not a fucking definition of spirit. If your definition is spirit as defined as we, then congratulations. I agree that spirit exists, but we aren't spirit in the sense that you were describing before.
Can you prove that?
No. Can you?
Yeah, I'm proving it right now. Like I
No,
said
you're
with my
fucking not.
conversation.
That's the point. The difference is I
hmm
understand what can and can't be proven, and you don't.
I'm demonstrating. You're asking for demonstration all the time, and I'm
Watcher,
demonstrating
you
it right
haven't
now with the
demonstrated
conversation.
anything.
No, you know what
I
you're
gave the
demonstrating?
example
You
back.
are demonstrating that you are not equipped to understand the difference of how to demonstrate something or not.
I demonstrated to you that what you're saying doesn't make sense and that you're not offering evidence, which you were able to understand when I flipped the script, but you're not able to see that that's what you're doing, even though all I did was replicate what you're doing and I just reversed the point, the stance that I was taking, that you're taking.
This feels wrong.
You
Like,
said
it feels wrong.
now
No, stop
if I
talking.
can.
Stop
I'll
talking,
mute him.
Watcher. I'm going to just apologize to you now because
Thanks.
it is completely unfair for us to allow you to keep wasting anybody's time thinking that you've demonstrated something or have a clue how to demonstrate something when you don't. And that may not be your fault. You may have been misled about the nature of evidence and the burden of proof and how to establish something. You may be speaking in some esoteric fashion, but at the end of the day, I would agree with you that you exist and I exist and Promise exists. When you say we are spirit, I have no idea what that means. And when you say spirit is us, that doesn't offer me any clarification. At no point have you done anything to say what spirit is or how you can know it exists. You just keep asserting that your spirit confirms that spirit is real. That is absolutely useless for anyone other than you. And it is probably useless for you as well, because you don't have a way to distinguish between you being deluded by your brain's faulty thinking or being honestly informed by a spirit. If you have a way to tell the difference between being honestly informed by a spirit and deluded by a brain, I would be happy to hear it. Apart from that, I don't think we should keep talking.
Well, my epistemology, Matt, respectfully, is my spirit. That's how I know things, and I believe that's how we all know things.
Go the fuck away. You are either
Why?
delusional or a liar to go from spirit is us to spirit is my epistemology. No, it's fucking not. Epistemology isn't spirit. It's not even fucking remotely tied to spirit as you were using it before. It's not fucking remotely tied to the fruits of the spirit. This is an absolute bullshit waste of time fucking call. Goodbye.
That was rough. And I just remembered that we started that call off with the claim that the fruit of the spirit is the evidence that a God exists. So
These people aren't real. And this is the problem.
yeah,
How long is it going to be before an entire show is no real people just an AI ChatGPT voice where somebody's typing in a prompt and spewing out absolute nonsense. Spirit is us. Spirit is my epistemology. Spirit is a steaming pile of shit, is what it is. Prove me wrong. I know, because I just went down to the toilet and left a steaming pile of shit, and it told me it was spirit. Congratulations, I've now proved it.
I should have gone
This
with
is-
that as my example instead.
No, your example was actually
Oh.
good and useful, unlike mine, which is why I'm glad you hadn't been here. It should have been 20 minutes long, and I'd have hung up on everybody, or almost everybody. That's not true. There were a couple of calls where we made some progress.
I was
and had
about to
some
say,
interesting discussion.
I think there was some, there was some more, but yeah, generally, kind of a bummer. Especially, I go and look at my Facebook comments just now, and there's people all over it trying to debate me talking about this show, but they won't call in. So
They won't call me.
still waiting for you guys. Whenever you want to call,
I offered
we'll
to
be here.
genuinely.
I know.
If there's people who want to just debate you, I will let a Morgan mute me for the duration of a call in order to just let Promise engage with someone. It will be, you guys will be able to sit here and watch me losing my mind and taking my glasses off and everything, but you won't have to listen to me at all. I think the problem is not that they're scared of me. I think they're scared of you.
This is a nice thought, but I don't know. We'll say it's both of us together. It's too much apparently for their God to handle. So
And you know what?
maybe next time we try.
I mean, a 2-on-1 is not necessarily, it could be a fair objection that having two of us is not fair for them.
Totally.
Although I would say that if you're calling in with a God on your side and we don't have God on our side, I'd say that the fight should be unfairly balanced in your direction. It should be trivially easy.
Yeah. If it's true, and you have truth on your side, and I've gone on the record many times saying I care more about what is true than anything else. And if you have something to offer us that's true, then I want to know it. So maybe next time we start the show off, I'll write my little sentence down, and then a theist could just call in and just offer one sentence, and I'd be willing to say, oh, maybe a God actually told you that, because I'll come up with some wild sentence. Anyways, well, we tried. I had a fun time hanging out. Yeah, something like that. I'll write it in a different language. That'll be good too.
By the way,
yeah, it's 1 a.m. here. Do what?
If anybody, by the way, has suggestions for how the call screeners can, and I'm not blaming the call screeners, I'm saying how to make it easier for call screeners to figure out whether or not someone is serious, whether or not they are likely to be willing to defend. I get they can ask some questions. Our call screeners are volunteers, and they're doing the best they can. And what's happened several times, I know because we've talked to the call screeners, is that the individual that they speak to when screening the call is sometimes different than the actual person we talk to. And at other times, it's been what they've said in the screening for the call is fundamentally different from what they say once they get on, which is why you'll get the people doing the soundboard thing, let me play some sound or make some barking thing or play a sex sound or whatever, which is awesome, as if I've never heard sex sounds, as if I didn't hear sex sounds right before we went live. But hey, thanks for calling in to enlighten all of us. I don't know.
Wild times. Well, it's been a lovely time despite some of these people's best efforts. Thank you guys all so much for hanging out with us in the chat. Thanks for hitting the like button, share, subscribe, all the things. And thank you especially to our crew, our mods, screeners, Morgan, you're the best. And check out our Patreon, patreon.com/calltheline. See you guys later. I'm going to sleep. It's 1 a.m.